Go on this computer. There we go. Thank you, lady. All right.
Gabe.
Beat me to it. My mic was off.
Good stuff. All right. So we know. So how are our user and our developer models? How are they connected in a terms of a relationship? What's the relationship between the two?
Repeat the question,
again?
please.
What's the relationship? Remember, database relationships between user and developer.
None. Well,
Not currently. What should it be? Is what I'm saying. Yeah.
oh, it should be. It should
Yes.
be
Should be a
One to
one-to-one.
many.
one.
That's a one-to-one.
It's a one-to-one.
Is it?
How many? So for your email, how many developers are you, Matt?
One.
You're a single developer, right?
Yes.
And you have one email, and you're going to have one login for that account, right?
Yes.
All right. So would that be considered a one-to-one?
Yeah, but there's many users though, so there's many roles.
True, but again, each user has one developer record, and each developer has only one login record.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
There's definitely going to be many users and many developers, but when you connect the developer to a user, it's a one-to-one. That every developer has only one user it's connected to, and every user has only one developer profile that it's connected to.
Okay.
So think of it in the way of like Twitter. You have one login and one profile, right? If you want another profile, you have to create another login, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
That's a one-to-one.
That sounds like in the vein of just permissions. I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's just not everyone has that one permission. So one-to-one. Yeah, that makes sense.
This is a one-to-one. Yep. This is a one-to-one. Like, yeah, various, like we said before, like a developer have a single avatar, and an avatar has a single user. Sorry, a single developer. So that's kind of the idea.
Think about is that a user can have multiple email addresses, but again, I guess I go back to he only logs in with one email address, but can have multiple email
That's based on the account specific. Yeah, that one profile.
Yeah. And on that side, though, you could also, that would also be a different system where you could also set it up as an array of email accounts with a single password. LinkedIn does this type of thing. So LinkedIn allows you to have multiple email accounts as your login and a phone number, but they all share the same password.
Right, the backup accounts or the business accounts that are linked to that account. Yeah.
Yep. So you can log in with any of those email accounts, but how I would imagine they set that up is still one user to one profile. It's just they have like a collection or an array, some sort of collection of the valid user names or auths. I would probably call it. These are my auths because it's emails, usernames, and phone numbers.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So that's how I would look at it. But at the same time, you could theoretically do a many-to-one in that case. We have many logins to one user if you really wanted to do that. The trickiness to that, of course, is maintaining the same password on all of those login credentials. So if you change the password, you have to make sure all the records under the user table that user has is updated. And so you still need some way of making sure that all those individual user records are somehow still connected in some way. So that's why I believe they would use some sort of collection if they wanted multiple usernames or multiple emails.
Right.
So an one record in the entry.
So an example of Google where they either ask for email or for phone number, that would be an example of that. Some websites ask, oh, what's your username or what's your email? That's that concept of collection.
Yeah. Well, if it's two different data points, you could have username and email separate, but it would be on the same record. It would be in a single row on the table. But if you're using like multiple emails, we don't know how many, we could of course limit them to say you can only have a max of 3 emails, and we have email 1, email 2, and email 3. But that's usually not a common practice to set a limit to how many you can do. So that would instead be an array, since arrays can be, or at least, sorry, Java, a list, because arrays are limited space. But you could use a list. That way you can put as many emails as you want on that one account, or as many different auths as you want to. So emails and stuff like that. So multiple emails. You would have another row for all the phone numbers. So if the person entered the phone number, you would only search the phone number field. If they entered a non-email formatted login, you would check all the username fields. And if they entered an email, you would check all the email collections under each. But again, every single person would have a single user record that is connected. unless, and again, this is just, again, a lot of hypothetical, a lot of talk about how they might do it. If each login off, so either email, username, or password, or phone number, had a different password. Now you would probably be looking at a many to one. You get many logins to one profile, because then you wouldn't have to worry about trying to maintain that password across multiple rows.
Would
That's
you
the one
say,
thing.
sorry, would you say they would still be that many to one relationship? Because from what I've run into several times of forgetting passwords, sites will keep track of a password log to ensure that if you're trying to change it, because if you were hacked in those circumstances, you try to re-enter it just not knowing if you've used it before, it will say, oh, you can't, that's already in our system. Would you say that would be an implementation of a list in many to one?
Again, it would probably be a list of previous passwords, it would still be on the same row in the database and on a single entity.
Okay.
So you wouldn't have multiple rows or multiple entities. And that's the thing. That's where when we talk about one, we talk about one row in the table.
Right.
That's when we talk about one. When we say many, we mean many rows in a table. So that's where the difference is. And that's why I want to make sure we discuss this a bit to make sure everyone's on the same page and not just like, oh, well, if they say that's what it is, that's what it is. If Cliff says it's a one-to-one, it's a one-to-one. I definitely want us to make sure we understand it. But no, it's a single entity. So a list in an entity doesn't mean we're going to take up multiple rows of the table. SQL does have a concept of arrays.
Right. I would assume that a spot in a table would just have a list or an array list of all of those objects based on what they're requesting. I figured that because you could store an array list or a list as a variable, a singular variable. So exactly. I would imagine it's the same concept.
Yep. And since it's not a complex, we can have a list that isn't another entity. Those items, yes. SQL has a way of recording that information. Usually what they do is there's two ways of storing it. Either they store it as a SQL array, or which is when you look at it, it's just a string of memory addresses for where SQL's storing it. Or you can just store it as a string, as a string in array format so they can be parsed. So all the data is there, raw and visible, but it is still in it. But then SQL doesn't recognize it as an array, but whatever you pull it into would, because they would parse the data. They would parse the formatting into an array.
So Google allows you to log in by email, by username, and by phone number, don't they?
Yeah, a lot more modern sites are doing that more and more. And that's something, like I said, you can do that, but again, you would still use a single user entry to hold it.
Right.
For the fun of it, how we would update this to do that is we would have at blank. I don't think they have a phone validator. No, they don't. So you would probably use some sort of regex validator for phone format.
Yeah, but would you actually go up to the private to the username and actually remove the email and just bring it in and then just parse the information to figure out which it would be?
Let me finish. No, hold on, Jim. Let me finish. I think it may make sense how I'm doing it. So I could, of course, add all variations of login to this by removing email. Yes, but that means I'm storing emails, usernames, and phone numbers in a single list here. I could also, and I would also change this to be, I would change this to be a list of strings of usernames. I'm not going to really actually do this, but so I'm not going to worry about importing stuff and fixing everything. I do a list string, list string phone numbers. I'll also do at not blank private. And in this case, I would take away the email on that one, make that username, and I would do this as a not blank at email. I don't know if that would fit here though, because I'm going to put a list and not an individual. So that validator might not work here, but emails. And the reason why I would separate them is because then when the data comes in from the system, I can scan the email to see, is this an email format? Is it just text? Is it just numbers? If it's just numbers, then I can do a query in my database in just this item and not have to search all the different logins they have and save some time. Yeah. And so I can search just here. If it has an email format, if there's an @ symbol in it, I'm going to go ahead and search here. If there's no special characters, no number, and just if this is a mix of letters and numbers, I'll go ahead and search in the usernames. It's not a valid email account. It's not an valid email format. And so that's why I could keep them separate, but it would still be under the same entity. So it would still take up one row in the data in the table. So this would still be a one-to-one parallel. So one instance of the class is one row in your table. If you have multiple instances of the class, that's multiple records. And that's what happens with the geekouts. Our geekouts, we have multiple, for every time they post, we have a new instance of a geekout, and that's a new row in the database. But all of those rows of geekouts are still pointing to one single developer, right? They're all pointing to the same developer for those multiple posts that, let's say, Matt, you posted. So you posted multiple geekouts. All those, let's say, 3 geekouts you did are also pointing to your one developer record in the database. That's the many-to-one. That's what we call many-to-one. Yeah, with the languages system, that was the many-to-many. So again, let's say this time, Jim, I know you had 3 languages marked in your profile when we had it. So you have you have 3 rows in our language to develop our developer language table that has your ID, and then the other 3 language and the 3 IDs of the languages you have. So there's 3 rows in there, and that's how we see many-to-many. There's 3 rows. So there's 3 branches from your dev to that table, and 3 branches from the language table to that other table as well. And so that's where we get our many-to-many concept.
So so it's better to be able to understand this. It's just easy. Many records to many records, one record to one record to many records.
Yep. Well, yeah, exactly. Because languages, we have lang. I don't have my thing out,
one record, but I have 3 records of languages I know.
Record. For each of these items of record, we have devs. And so the idea here is that we would have one developer here would point to this one, and to this one. But at the same time, this language here is pointing to, we already see there's one arrow pointing between this language and this developer, but it could also be pointing at this developer, and this one's pointing at that developer and that developer. So we see how there's like each one of these, like this is pointing to many different languages, and each language is pointing to many different developers. They're connected through a table in the middle where we have this guy pointing at 1, 2, and 3 different rows here, and this one's pointing to 3 different languages. But when you remove this table as the underhood, this is really what you're kind of getting, this kind of parallel, this kind of visual there. What we're looking at now, though, is we have, like I said, our auth. I really should bring out my tablet. Trying to do it with my mouse, it's not worth it. It's just making things difficult. Good. Again. Oh, I'm upside down.
Oh no, that's right. You should have it on my side.
There we go. Okay, got it. Yeah, this we have our auth table. We have our dev table. Our records here. And so again, in a single, if we were to blow this up, this is what you see in all of these. So everything here in this screen here is inside one record. All right. So username, password, phone number, emails. So you have multiple, they're all still in that one row there. And that's going to point to a single profile. And it doesn't have to be across it. So click the undo button there. So this could be pointing here technically, based on race conditions, they're called. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be like one-to-one, like across from like here to here. It probably will. If you do have your system set up at the same time, that the user 1 will have dev 1 and auth 2 will have dev 2. But if you have a popular system, depending on what we call race conditions and how long it takes to save data, and again, if you have multiple servers running, so you have multiple instances of your servers, then yeah, while auth 1 might finish saving their authentication record first. So let's say, what is it? Connor decides to create an account and Taylor creates an account. Tyler starts his first, and then Connor comes in to create his second. So we got Tyler here because he started, and then Connor starts second. But let's say Tyler decides to fill out everything in his developer profile, and Connor really just types in, I'm a developer, and clicks one language. So that means Connor probably would still beat him though on finishing the dev account profile saving, and Tyler would not. So Tyler would get number 2 and Connor would get number 1. Kind of cool, right? Kind of interesting. And that's where, again, a 1-to-1 doesn't necessarily mean auth 1 and dev 1. It can be auth, it just means that there's one record to each one. They have one that they're connected with. Understanding a little better?
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, right? Hopefully.
Good for Tyler to beat Connor at coding for once.
There you go.
No, I'm just looking at a lot of the websites that I use a little bit differently now because I've always assumed that my login credentials would be the exact same thing as my user profile on the site. I'm seeing now that they can actually be separate pieces that share information, and that's really interesting.
Yep, and you actually want them to do that. If they're doing it the way you thought they were doing it, that's a security issue.
Yeah.
So
You don't keep them in the same space.
Nope. That way there's no accidental
in the
pulling
same
of it.
column,
Right.
or even
Right.
in the same database. It's called relational databasing.
Yep.
Mm.
Because one of the main reasons, like even just the most basic attack you can do on anybody using SQL is just SQL injection, where you type SQL commands into a field on a form and that gets sent over. The SQL system could accidentally try to run that. Usually, though, the beginning of the SQL stage would still be select star from or select something from a certain table. And so if your user and profile data is in the same table, though, they can then just pull it all down. But at least if your user data is in a separate table and you were trying to pull from profile or update the profile, they're only going to get the profile data. The user data is in a separate table. So unless they know to do a join and they knew the table name of the user table, they couldn't be able to find it easily. It, again, makes it more challenging for them. So you want to always
Glad
put
that you said that
security.
SQL injection thing, because I was gonna look that up later. I actually was listening to the Talk one of Darknet this morning on my way to work.
Got another fan. Nice. Richie got lost. All right.
I'm behind a little bit. I got to catch up on that show.
I'm very
On
behind,
that
actually.
show.
It kind of is a show, honestly. It's not just a podcast. It's kind of a show.
They have their own theme music, like, you know.
Yeah, I listened to it before you had all that stuff. I was listening to it before you had all the art and like the really good theme music. He just had the one song, one track.
Oh, I
It
started
was
at 1,
great.
so I started all the way back at the beginning.
Hell yeah, that's the way to do it, man.
That's the thing. He has a one song that he always plays. Now he can play more.
Oh,
He's gotten way better at his stuff now. But yeah, no, you got to start at #1. Like the stories are great.
Sometimes wonder
Yeah,
if he
yeah.
uses a fake name or not because his name is Jack Resider, and that sounds like somebody who lives in a jack.
I don't know, but I saw it spelled out once. And like that looks like an actual name. So who
Yeah,
knows?
it does. I don't know. That could just
it's
be
his
my brain
online
firing.
persona.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say everyone in the coding space has a hacker name secretly.
I was gonna say if anybody would have a secret name they're using, it would be him doing the Darknet Diary show.
Even just for a bit, at least.
Telling all my secrets.
God, now everyone's gonna start wondering, is Cliff Jack Reciter? Because he keeps pushing this thing now.
Maybe.
I
Uses
am
a
not. I wish.
voiceover.
My
I
my
wish.
my pirate name as the joke is the Hostess Cupcake guy called Captain Cupcake.
Oh jeez.
He's the mighty pirate. He steals things.
You guys want a really good spoof on like hacking and all that? Critical Role does a good bit with NordVPN with their segments, like just YouTube Critical Role NordVPN. It's a hilarious skit that they've been doing for like a year and a half.
I'll check it out. I am curious now. I have not seen it.
It's worth the
I didn't know
effort.
Critical Role was on YouTube. I thought they were the most popular Twitch streamer, so that's good to know.
Yeah, they
They're
are streaming,
streaming
but
to
they do
YouTube
upload.
now.
Oh,
but
really?
they-
They're
Ah.
streaming on YouTube?
Yeah, Thursday nights they upload.
Yeah.
Well,
I know
stream,
that they
should
did
say.
I know they uploaded everything because that's how I used to watch all their shit because I never was like.
Without
I
getting
think
too
I-
deep into
oh,
that,
yeah.
because that's
Yeah,
unfortunately
yeah,
not
yeah.
coding related.
Right.
The
Yeah.
only reason I even know who they are though is because of the whole Twitch leak.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
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 The Yep.
So that's why I was okay with mentioning that, because yeah, they were part of the hacking thing. Going
We'll
back to
have a
hacking,
D&D call after hours sometime. We don't want to derail this too much.
I was afraid to bring it up, but that's my fault.
Yeah, we're gonna
That's
lose some
cool.
people here. I can see some eyes glossing over already.
I read an article interesting about D&D, but I'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Yep, he turned off his camera. Let's see. So let's get to it now. How are we doing, Richie? Are we back? Rich, are we back? We good? Issues. Can't hear him, so we'll see. We're gonna keep going. Again, we're recording, so it's not a big deal. All right, so yeah. So hopefully we're understanding a little bit better on the relationship. Again, anytime you're wondering if you're not confident in a relationship, don't be afraid to ask a classmate or even ask me. I'm coming up with a relationship. Here's my two data. Here's the two tables. Here's how they interact themselves. I think they're this. I think it's a one-to-one or one-to-many, many, complex, many, whatever it is. Feel free to just, and even then, just post it in Slack too and get some feedback on it. See what people say. But I definitely love the idea, and Matt, you're 100% right about this, by the way. Why I give this information is because I do want you thinking about the sites you use differently, the applications on your phone that you use and how they might track information differently, and think of the way and think how they might get that information. What might they pull from you? I actually kind of feel bad that some of the newer students didn't hear about the whole chat we had about like potentially TikTok, not just monitoring, not just keep track of like the videos you like, but how many times do you tap it? How many times do you actually like it? Where do you tap it? Like what part of the screen are you tapping? Does that have any sort of correlation to it? How many times did you watch before you tapped it? And then how are they capturing this information? And so there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. The more you know about this, the way it's preferably, and really that helps to feel better that you are digging deeper into this stuff. If you start looking at the world differently and looking at the things you use differently, that's when you know you're really becoming a developer. I can guarantee those people who drive cars and know how a car works drive a car differently and use it differently. I'm fairly confident in that. Mostly, and
I
I
say that because
yeah.
whenever they hear a rattling, you and I think, oh, there's that sound, and we try to replicate that sound when we go to them. But someone who knows about cars knows exactly what's rattling and where to go fix it, what part
Exactly.
they need.
And how to drive to make sure it doesn't get worse until they can fix it.
Correct.
They would know any tricks or techniques to be able to make sure it doesn't get worse, potentially.
And
That's a
when
good
we
point,
hear
yeah.
Arnell revving the engine, we jump out of the way.
I felt
Wait,
so
you
bad for
jump
you
out of
guys.
the way?
Yes, they did.
I did.
Oh, I don't.
No, I know you don't, Freddie. You have nerves of steel.
What are you talking about? I will
that
run.
was me.
It would be an
Oh, I'm sorry. I
honor
thought that
to
was-
be
I thought that was
run
Freddie.
over by Arnell. It would be an honor.
I'll let him know.
It was close. It was
Trust
this
me,
close.
It's
I
not an
fell.
honor.
He hit me. Oh,
All that car
Yeah.
down. Oh.
he can pay me in Bitcoin. Oh.
There we go. That's why Sergio wants to get hit.
The lawsuit was settled for, I don't know, a good amount of Bitcoin, but
One 50,000.
there you go.
That'd be great. That would be for me, that would just be one of the funniest like headlines, like lawsuit settled for 1 Bitcoin. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it definitely is.
Oh my god.
And then you hear the Bitcoin drop like half of it the next day.
Ah,
Like,
jeez.
really broke.
That would be the funny thing, because that would be the alternative.
The guy who won the 1 Bitcoin that is now like nearly broke. Like, I got all this money. Nope, not anymore.
Yeah, that would actually be fun irony to some of the other stories I've heard before. Where what was it? I saw a story of a. I'll try to keep this short so we can get to the code. But there was a story of a StarCraft competition where first prize got like $200, second prize got like 50, third place got $10, and fourth place 10 fourth place winners. Like there were 10 the next 10 places. They each got 250 Bitcoins each. because of how low it was when they did the contest. So by now, if they all kept it, they actually earned way more than any of the other people who played better than them.
Can
You
I ask
actually
you a
were way more
Can I ask
rewarded
a
by
quick
playing
question
bad.
before we go any further, just because most
Please.
of the participants are here?
Go for it.
Did everybody already submit for the hackathon thing?
I'm
I
pretty
know
sure
that
we
this
didn't.
weekend I was super busy and I didn't. So I was actually talking to Freddie about this earlier because he's on my team, but
I know we did.
All right.
I submitted.
I know Evan did ours, so I'm
Yeah.
that he's.
Wow. I didn't even know. Sweet.
Yeah, so Arnell's the one that's getting the turn in. So I don't know who's turned in or not. So leaving it. Unfortunately, I got to leave it to him to figure out when we have them all to actually start the review. So we're waiting for it, and we're gonna start pestering you guys. If you don't send it in, you might not get reviewed. So, and again, the thing is, just send something. There should be no excuse to not at least do something. So, and if you're in hell, if you're concerned your teammate's not gonna do it yourself and point it out to let us know. Let me and Arnold know. So just put something together, anything. Even if the site itself doesn't work, talk to us about what it does, what you did do, and what you wanted to do, and try to explain why it doesn't work. Just submit something. When I did the hackathon, when I was a participant in Arnell's hackathon, our site did not work in the end of it. We had a very, very generic thing that we could pull up. It didn't have any sort of functionality. We had a layout for a website. We had a concept. There were things built, just wasn't all connected. And so I couldn't demo it at the time. But we created a presentation for what the project was and what it could do and what we were so close to getting it to do. And we were still able to get second place. And unlike this hackathon, there was at least like 7 teams there. So that was at least good. I feel like we only lost the other team because of 2 reasons. 1, they actually had something that functioned, and 2, we are pretty confident that they actually started before the hackathon started. They did something related to DigSafe, and that organization is slow. So I can guarantee they worked with them before the hackathon. And so I got a little annoyed with that because not a true hackathon, you don't start before the hackathon starts. So. But you can't really hold it. It's one of those unwritten rules. So unless the organization actually states it and they actually have some sort of penalty for it, there's nothing you can do about it.
Was that
All
the
right.
DAO hackathon?
What was that?
Was that the DAO stack
No,
hackathon?
that was a hacker. That was Providence hackathon. That was before me and Arnell were business partners and before I was a student.
Oh,
That was
okay.
that was the second time I had at least caught his attention. So and made me realize that I was a person. So because yeah, he'll admit it. Like when he first met me, he didn't think that much of me. I was just another developer, just another attendee. So the first time I got his attention was when I got $500 from him for finishing a challenge he had done. He had challenged all the students to do the first section of free code camp in a month, and I was the only one who apparently did it. So he actually thought everybody gave up. But when I asked him, I was like, wait, you did it? Yeah, the only one who actually kept going. And so he had to write me a check for 500. But like I said, he got back at me that night by making me solve an algorithm in front of everybody. Second time I did it was at the hackathon where I got second place because I organized my team. And then the third time, was when I was a student and I crushed the assignment because I became a TA myself. I forced myself to help my classmates and finish the class early. So let's do this. All right, so we talked about that again. Any questions on many relationships? Let's do it, but let's go ahead and create this as a one-to-one. So we want to do a user to developer connection, a one-to-one. And then the question here is how are we going to be pulling information? That's the next question. We're going to be pulling pulling the user by the developer ID. Are we going to do that? We're going to want to pull the user record by the developer ID. Does that make sense?
Pull the user record?
Yeah, pull the user record from the developer ID. Yeah, this is 50-50.
What you want
I
to
think
give
it would be the other way around.
ID to attach to the
Right.
user?
Yeah.
say this again. You're gonna pull what?
Are we ever going to pull the user record from the developer ID?
No.
No.
I don't really see that, right?
No.
But we probably are going to pull the developer by the user ID, right?
Hmm.
That
Yes.
sounds more like it, right? And so if we think about that, that signature would look like, put that up here somewhere as a comment. It most likely look like developer signed by user ID, right? Probably look like that, right?
Yes.
That looks like a good method. So look, go ahead.
Based on what you said last time, wouldn't you have to put developer in there so it knows what table to go to? And
Right,
then
and that's what we're trying to
find
figure
ID?
out. Where do we put this information? Where do we put this? And so there's two things here. Which repository would this go in?
You would go into the developer one because that's where the ID
right.
is.
Well, not only that, because of this, we would return a developer. And so the developer repository is the only thing that can return a developer. The user repository can only return users. So this would definitely go into the developer repository, which means that we need to be able to search for the user field in the developer class. So it has to go under developer. So, yep.
Can I ask a
You're right,
question then?
goes here.
So,
Go ahead.
so how does user relate in that? I understand the one-to-many, I understand that, but so then what does the user part serve for the developer? Like what does, I guess I don't see the relation.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's for
okay.
authentication. It allows you to act as that developer and gives only you the ability to act as
Okay.
that developer.
Okay,
Right
that
now,
makes sense.
I go to my Postman and I can create a developer account willy-nilly. I can create as many as I want, and then I can actually create a geek out for any developer record, including ones that I didn't create. So right now on our current site, you create a developer account, you put it in. I do a get all developer route. I see your developer record. I see your ID there. I can now create a geek out using your ID and make a geek out under your name.
So user is more of a role and less of a.
I wouldn't say a role, it's more of a authenticator. It's a way of proving that you are the one who has the ability to act as this person, as this developer.
Well, the reason I say role is because technically as an admin, I should be able to post as anybody I want.
No, as a
I
user.
have elevated rights.
Well, I mean, realistically, on any form, you shouldn't be able to post as
Right.
someone else. That's not
True.
Yeah, no, yeah.
That's not a very
So
good thing. That's bad.
So I guess I look
I
at
was
this from
gonna
a
say-
technical role, right? So in a technical role, I've done tech for years.
Yeah.
When I remote in as someone else, I can physically remote in as that user.
Now, usually you have to ask for their permission, right?
No,
Oh.
no, I don't.
And that, again, that depends on the company too. So I would like to believe that there's no just at any moment Jack Dorsey or an employee at Twitter can just post a tweet in my name freely. Could they? For all I know, maybe they could. I don't know, but I would like to believe that they can. And then a lot of systems do have what's called OAuth nowadays. A lot of these
Yes,
higher end companies
I
have
do know
an
what that
OAuth
is.
system, which is what they'll do then is during the support stage, they'll send you a login link. You click on it, you type your information to a form, and they get a token that is temporary to give them access to act as you. And would give them temporary remote access as you. That is a system that you're going to probably start seeing more and more because as people, we definitely want to believe, especially as a lot of these tools now becoming more common, more and more are voices on the internet. We don't want malicious people. We saw it recently how, there was the Amazon leak that a lot of Amazon just data was publicly purchase data or purchase history was available to the Amazon employees. And apparently some Amazon employees were actually using that in a malicious way. They would look up the purchase history of celebrities and they were finding out that certain celebrities were buying, let's say adult items. And they would leak that to tabloids and to reporters and stuff like E! Entertainment and what is it, TMZ or whatever it is? I don't know who it is. That it? That's the name? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would leak that information there trying to just give juicy data for money. And that's a problem.
Cliff, do you mean like adult things like 401ks and IRAs? and
Yes,
stuff?
100%.
Yes.
Just making sure. Thanks.
Yeah, the 401ks you buy on Amazon, always.
Adult.
Exactly. Adult
That's a
thing.
candy
Yep.
bar. So, I guess the way I was looking at it and the way I was looking at this is
Yeah.
I look at it like an Active Directory, right? So you have
Yeah.
users that are up
Yeah.
here. Like on Mac, you would have sudo admin. You would be able to log in as that user as a super admin. You would have the ability to overlook, or even just in my case, I could just reset the user's password and log
Yes.
in. There's no
But I would say that you
authentication
have,
that
but I would say you have more of that access because you have direct access to the database, not to the API.
okay, so
You would
this
most
is
likely change, yeah, you would most likely change the password, not through a URL or an API route, but most likely through going into the database directly and setting and doing a SQL command or something. Or yeah, you would have to have an admin rights to do that. And again, only you would have it. But that's something, again, that's a feature you would have to enable in our system. I'm not putting that in. Right now, we actually have no password reset functionality in our system. Just to be aware of it.
well, so what I was going with is like, so I have like log me in, right? I don't, there is a function in there that you can put in place where it it prompts the user and says, hey, can I log in?
Yep.
And then there's unattended access.
Yep, which you have to be given permission for to use.
I can just log in straight as them. I don't have
True,
to
but again,
authenticate. I don't have to.
Not quite. They do need to at least once say that this person is allowed to use unauthenticated login. They do have to give you that. Once you have that approval, though, you can do it as many times as you want. That, but they do have to give you at least the very first time. They do have to give you that first approval to say that this person can log in anytime they want as me without confirmation. But then once you have that, you have it indefinitely. So that would be one of the way I kind of look at it, though, the way the user to the developer system is the user entry is kind of your key, is how I look at it. It's the key that lets you act as them. It's like a key to unlock the door so you can then do stuff as them. Could I lend that key to someone else? 100%. But it is still a key that links, and that key only goes to one door. In this analogy, it's a door. It's a key to a single door, and it only goes to that door. But of course, anyone can use that key to access that door. So I could share that, and technically, it is clear. It is safe to say that when the key's made, that key could be given to all the admins of the system. But it is there's still that one key that I have that only allows me to act as that person. The main goal here is yes. Matt, not being an admin on my site, he can't make a geek out on your behalf. Period. He's just a user. So that's what we're going in for now. We're done. That's something we could do. I'm not getting into that with this site. Again, we're trying to. That's definitely something that you can do in your site, 100%. But right now, we don't want that. You don't want me making posts on your behalf. You don't want to know what I would post on your behalf, saying like, "Oh no, you said that." That could be dangerous.
Very dangerous.
So yeah, this is going to be a one-to-one. And since we do want to see, go ahead and put that back so we can see that note again. Since we know that we need to be able to find by user, we do need that user reference here in the developer system, in the developer one, sorry, not in user. I realized it was in user. So we need that in the developer class. We need the user reference. We need to do a @ 1 1 what was the entity, by the way? So you remember this one? What we do after that? So 1 to 1, and then what's the next item we need? Remember?
It's not the ignore. It's
No.
hold on. I gotta actually go back and look.
Good. Yeah, you guys are allowed to look. What it is, just kind of doing a sanity check here. So anyone remembers the entity, the annotation, not entity, annotation. That word.
Join table,
What is it?
join table.
Not join table. That's many to many.
Oh, it's not many to many. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Join column.
Join column.
There you go. Yeah, there we go. Join, where'd my at go? Come back. Join column. We have to initiate. We have to dedicate the column for it. So in this one, we do name. Remember what that needs to be? In here, I'll actually help you guys out. We'll pull up the 1-to-1 reference we have over here.
So
Oh, right, I didn't put it there. Whoops. It should be, actually, it is in here somewhere. Where? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we didn't technically create one because we don't need to define the column, right? It's, this is again, I forget that we don't need to do that for 1-to-ones because they're very, very basic. So we don't need to, I forgot to mention that, because 1-to-ones are so basic. But I do want to showcase in one way because you can see here, there's the avatar 1-to-1. You don't need it because it's just going to create an avatar ID number or the user ID on the avatar record. So it's going to create the ID, the number somewhere. The question here though is where do we want that number? Do we want the user ID here under developer, or do we want the developer ID under the user record? Does it matter to us?
Would you not put it under the user because that's where you're authenticating?
Could.
I would put it on the
I-
user record because that's where it's identified to what that login goes to who on the developer table. Because I was trying to figure that out. I'm like, how are you connecting these two together? How does it know one to the other? I'm like,
That's
well,
what I was asking earlier about what is the relation to user and developer. But
Yeah.
yeah, that actually would make sense. That is a way you could relate them, is this user's user ID associates them to this developer.
yeah, and it would be going to the user to say that that's where that goes to that developer.
Yeah. So let's
You
take a
can
look at
actually
Geek
do it
Out
the
for a
other way
second.
too. And the other way I would think too would be if you have the developer with the user attached to it, that means the developer record has like all the information and not just detached from like an orphan table would say,
Mhm.
like the user table. So
No matter what, whatever we do, it's going to be detached. It's going to be a separate table for user, separate table for developer, no matter what we do.
yeah, but I was just thinking like the
Okay.
developer table would have like the developer plus it has the reference to the user table's ID. So that's attached to one big record instead of if the developer didn't have that one record there, then I wouldn't know what the email address is if I wanted to actually reference it in a SQL statement or query.
If we, technically, we actually have email in our developer record still.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's true too.
That's just an artifact from before because we didn't have user before, so we could remove this technically. But I'm just saying we do have it. But yeah, even then though, by using the join though, we can pull that. We probably don't want to do that though, and we probably do want to keep the separate item here because again, we probably want to ignore all user information. So most likely what we're going to do here is do name, user ID, reference column. And I did colon instead of. I do that. Wait, what? Yeah, name that. Not the colon, equal sign, please. ID. Yeah. Do private user. Oh, did I grab the right one? Crap. Oh, I did. Okay, good. Sure. At the same time, though, I can guarantee this one is just going to be a straight up JSON ignore property. Or JSON ignore, honestly. This is a straight up JSON ignore. We never want to include the user any sort of user information at all, ever in the developer pull. That should never go to the front end, ever. Right?
Mhm.
Now we need to make sure that when we do the pull, we have a user field that does connect to the ID. So what I will clarify, because the JPA, we don't actually care where that column goes. We don't actually care if the user ID is in the user table or if it's in the developer table for JPA. Now, what I will say, yes, you could argue security-wise. Maybe we start in the user table, so if someone does pull down the dev table, they can't see the user ID number, and maybe then if they do somehow get the user table, they can't connect the developer with the user ID easily. Maybe that's something we need to do. That could also help make sure they never figure out what the name of our user table is. Right now it's called user. It's called user. Maybe we should say this is auth ID. Again, this is the name of the column that we get to define. It doesn't actually have to match anything. This does not have to match anything. This is the table. This is the name of the table on SQL. JPA will use this, not this, and it will use the ID of that entity, not of this. It doesn't care about this either. So this could 100% be auth ID, and then that would be we can even hide the name of our database, the table name. It won't the item doesn't match. Keep in mind that does cause issues for readability, but those are things. Those are debates you would have with the team to figure out what is the best setup for your system, and having those conversations. At minimum, makes you look well-informed. It makes you look thoughtful and constructive and helpful, and at least you get to participate in those conversations. But like I said, based on what we are currently using, it really doesn't matter where that column sits. JPA is handling all that, right? We're not writing any SQL scripts. So we don't really care where it is as long as JPA can use it, right?
Would
That
it
make
not be
sense?
would not be a better practice to just write yourself a case comment that says it?
We mean a case comment.
If you did use auth ID,
Oh,
would it not be better to just write yourself a case comment that tells you, okay, this is what it is? Because from the
Possibly.
outside, they're not reading your case
Yeah.
comments. They're just trying
Possibly.
to look.
that then yeah, if your company allows for comments, 100%. I will warn you that some companies do not allow comments in committed code. eMoney, one of the first companies we worked with, yeah, if they saw a comment on your code when you pushed it to the system, they would actually kick it back to you unless you could justify the need for the comment, that there was no way for you to write that code without a comment. You had to get rid of the comment and make sure your code didn't need it. And just to clarify, even if you got through the first reviewer, there were usually, I think there's, I can't remember if there was 3 or 4 stages of review. So you had to get through at least 3 people who would kick back at the first sight of a comment. So that was, and again, that was just their style guide. That was that company's style guide. So yeah, if your company allows for comments, yeah, that would be a great way to be able to use auth ID here, because then you can just clarify for the readability, this stands for user ID actually.
Because I thought the same thing. It's like you put auth there, and then if you start mixing up some terminologies, that is some level of security, because it just confuses people. But yet, if you keep it some standard, then if everybody's on the same page in the development team, then you don't have any problem about how the thing operates.
And that's a evil balancing act you have to do. You have to make sure you don't want to confuse. You want to confuse the hackers, but you don't want to confuse your development team.
Yeah.
And so it's a difficult balancing act you have to form. Same thing with, you have to protect your system, but you also have to make sure it's easy for your users to access what they want to access. You can't put too many checkers in your place. How many times do you guys get frustrated when you try to log into a site and it asks you to do a CAPTCHA, or it asks you a question and then says, oh, by the way, we sent you an email with a 6-digit code. Can you check on that and can you give us that? Oh, hey, we sent your phone a 6-digit code as well. Can you enter that in? Every time you get, every next step or next thing you have to do just to get logged in, how much more frustrated are you getting as a user? Right?
Exactly.
And so that's the evil balancing act we have to play. And that's why I've always said, that's why, again, I said this on last class, how as the blue team, you're not trying to block the hacker completely. You can't, unless you block your users. You're just trying to annoy them enough. But you have to find that balance between annoying the hacker enough without over annoying your users. It's a difficult balancing act. So, but that's what I also like about development, is that there's no one answer for anything. There's a discussion and there's multiple ways to do the same thing. And I actually personally like that. So that means you don't have to be perfect as a developer. You can always be learning, and whatever you type, you can at least discuss with someone and be like, well, why would you do it your way? That's actually really interesting, and think of that, and I can adjust now because of that. And no one, at least a good developer, would never judge you for not thinking of something that they thought. Bad developers will judge you, think that they're better, but good developers don't. Because they've all been in the same situation where they were like, yep, I didn't think of that, and someone called me out. So, good stuff. So yeah, we have that. We're going to connect to here. And this is one of the ones where we don't necessarily need to give the user the reference back. Because again, we're never going to be going for find users by a developer ID or find a user by a developer ID. If we ever do, we can add the reference here. We don't need it. Because we don't need that. So yeah, we got that. We're going to head over to our developer repository and add that connection now. Let's add that search tool there.
Don't we need setters and getters first?
We do. You're right. Let's add that here.
Yeah, we don't need those. No, we don't.
I mean, not unless we want the thing to work. Is that the goal?
True.
I can't remember.
We can use a little annotation, setters and getters, and it'll just all populate itself, right?
And then we'll head down to the bottom. Generate, get a setter, or user. Thank you for that. The repositories. Let's do our user repository. This. Oh no, I use a repository. Sorry, developer repository. My bad. I'm going to do developer. Find by user ID. capital L. So we always use the objects, not the primitives. The classes, not the primitives. Good. Gotta put my notes again. 1 second. Notes, 1 second. I didn't have those open. That's my bad. So now, overhead. So let's head back to our developer controller now. There they are. Controller. And then we're going to update our post mapping here. Where is it? Here we are. So we're going to get a new developer. This time, though, we need to add more to it now. We need to make sure we're getting a user as well. So we're getting a user ID along this. We make sure that that's in there. Fine. So first question. If we hit this route, do we know that they're logged in?
Well, the big question is, when you hit that route, does it exist or even log? Again, it's true. Is he logged in?
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, does he exist in the first place?
Yeah, they already. Yeah, they already have an account. So this one here is the create a new developer. So this is creating a developer, not updating one. So we probably should add that step in there. So 2 things. Yeah. Do we know if they're logged in if they hit this route? That's the first question. Do we know if they're logged in if they hit this route and they didn't get denied?
Right now, no.
All right. Any other opinions?
Assuming if you're editing a developer, you would be logged in.
I
Yeah,
can
but
see
if
what
you're
you're saying.
creating one, you wouldn't be logged in yet.
Maybe. Again, it depends on the flow. And that's actually, and I was definitely curious
Yeah,
what you guys would
because the
say for
user
this
and the
one.
developer are two different
Like,
things.
how would
right?
you be able to? Yeah, how would you be able to?
Yeah, that's
Like
true,
now, how
Sam.
would you be able to log in without the email and creating that, signing up first?
Right. So that's what we can assume though. We never said that when they sign up and when they send us their user data, that they're sending the profile data at the exact same time. Now on our front end, they could fill out their user information and their profile data in the same field, but you're not limited to a single API call from your front end per button submission. You can send the first API call to the user system to create the user record, sending the user data. Then when the response comes back with the user information, you can send it back in to log them in, get the token back, and then you can send in with the token the profile data from the information, from the profile part of the form. So you can actually do multiple API calls from your front end without the user ever knowing, without the user knowing. So you could actually do it that way, where you do, okay, I have all the information from the user that's signing up for a new account. I have all the user information, their email, their password. I have their first name. I have their name and their cohort number. And they've also given me the languages that they know. Well, in that case, let me go ahead. I'm going to my first call. I really should keep my tablet up this time to help you guys visualize this. Yeah, I'm really starting to expose some of the way the websites work nowadays. Now to you guys. You guys are really going to see websites differently of like, oh, wait, that's why. And this might also help make that GoPup thing we looked at on Monday, I think it was, a little more interesting, a little more, make more sense. They made so many calls that network thing filled out like crazy.
Because you're going to be making 2 writes. You're going to be, when you're doing the first one, you're going to be writing to the user database to generate a new one. Plus, you're going to be writing to the developer database because you're going to be filling out the rest of the profile that front end page was that the person put in.
Whiteboard. There it is. Right over there. Over here. Zoom share. Here we go. So yeah, on our front end, you normally see, yeah, you got your username or email in this case. email. We'll have the name field. Or the password field. We'll do password over here. We have our cohort because of how our system works. Cohort. Cohort. And then we have we'll do a drop-down menu for languages. And as they add each one, we'll do like, oh, there's JavaScript with an X next to it, and there's Java with an X next to it, and CSS. As they pick each one, we add the text here with the X that can remove it or add another one. So every time they go to the drop-down menu, they pick one, it adds it down there. And every time they add more, we add more. And if they ever like, oh, I clicked the wrong one, they can click the X to remove it, right? You've seen stuff like that before, right?
Mhm.
So this would be probably our sign-up page, which is some of you guys probably assume is that when you hit the submit button, you send all of this to the backend at the same time. Well, no one said that happened. This is that concept of thinking outside the box. And this is that idea of like, we sometimes assume how systems work. What we can actually do is do a call and do a post to API/auth/signup with the email and password, just that. That sends back a 201 created. That says we're good. We then say, okay, cool. With the same exact data, I'm not going to do a post API auth sign in. So even though our backend won't sign someone in automatically when they sign up, our front end can do that. Because as soon as it gets back up, and the entire time we just see this spinning icon on our submit button. So we hit the submit, we have the little spinning icon that's spinning in circles. So this is what this is what the user's seeing as this is happening in the background. It's in the sign in again with the email and password. When that goes back, what do we get back from the server this time?
Token.
Yeah, we get back our token, right? And so now we can do a post to API/developers with the name, cohort, email, and user ID. Or not user ID, sorry, and token as the auth header. Because we know that only this API auth and API test are the public routes. Remember that? Remember in our web config, we have API test ** and API auth ** as our two public routes, right? So API developers, regardless of the verb and whatever's after it, is protected. Unless we get a token, we can't access this route. Remember that now?
Mhm.
That's starting to ring a bell now? So if we were actually to successfully hit the content of that route, we know the person is logged in, right?
Mhm.
So now we can feel a little more confident in saying that. They get, okay, you're right. Yeah, we do know that they are logged in. All right. And then, yeah, we can send this. And then after that's done, we get back the user ID now. So you get back the new user object that includes the ID. We can then do a final put or post, whatever we did. I think we did a post. How do we do the languages? And remember, 1 second, we'll look. I think we did it on the developer. Yeah, post language, put mapping language. Okay, put language. We do a put. That was what it was. API/language with our array of languages and the token. So we know who to add it to. Look behind the curtains of what a lot of your sites are probably doing. Kind of interesting, right? Yeah, we can make multiple post requests because of how the internet works. Even though it took me this long to explain it, but most likely this right here took at most probably 0.5 to 1 seconds. Right? We see how fast our system responds to our request, right? On Postman, right? Comes back like that, right? So our front end can make all 4 of these requests in probably 1 second. So they'll see the spin for a couple, like a second or two, and then they have an account. Like we saw how many network pings the freaking GoPuff was doing. It still only took like 10 seconds, maybe 5. And it made a bunch of requests, right? And yeah, we'll admit we did think that one was kind of chuggy, but ours is not doing anywhere near what that's doing, or pulling near as much data as that was pulling. So you can imagine how much faster ours will go doing way less pulls than GoPuff did. We did that demo. So that's what our system can do. So we can assume that by this point, by the point the person is hitting our developer's route, they have an account. They were given an account, they have a token, they're logged in. Because we need a user account to connect our developers to moving forward. Moving forward, only users can have a developer profile. So if you don't have a user record, you cannot have a developer profile. So they have to be authenticated to create a developer record. Make sense?
It's an interesting concept that I haven't really thought about when it's come to kind of preventing the world of hacking, is that there has to be a paper trail to leave behind. They have to play by your rules a little bit. It's not always they sneak in. It's like they sneak in, but they probably have an idea of where to start.
Mm-hmm. Which again, part of me teaching you this stuff is definitely making you more likely able to actually become a hacker if you choose to. I am giving you guys more information on how websites are actually doing what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's funny, like most of you guys here thought you hit that submit button on a form, you think one submission, one transaction happens. All that data goes to the server, it does everything, it comes back once. No guarantee. That thing could send back 10 times in different posts. It could even do some asynchronous stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Makes me think about the Walmart hack that happened a few years ago, that someone hacked in from a Bluetooth connection in a AC unit. And then that was able to get into the rest of the systems. I mean, even in that environment, thinking about it, your phone is technically a user. It's an identifiable place to begin the accessibility into whatever their system is.
Yeah. 100%. Any questions on how this on this kind of thing that we're looking at right here? Any questions on this? Are we kind of following what's happening and why we can say if we hit the post API developer account, we can assume we have a token? Does that not make sense to anybody? Good, we're following? All right, cool. So let's switch back to new share, back to my desktop. That button. Share, there we go. Good. All right. So once we get here, we know for a fact we have a token. So I gotta find my notes again. 1 second. There we go. Okay, so we got that. And so what we can do is we can do so again, we didn't actually add any of these. So even though we know we validated the token, we did validate the token. We had that token filter go through and validate and pull the user account and everything. We didn't actually update the request to actually store any of that information. And we don't really have any access to the request object. We have access to the request body, not to the request object technically. What we can do though, is we can pull in the security context system. So we can go ahead and do application equals security context holder. Do you remember that thing? Security context holder. If I remember correctly, when we went to our token filter, we added our information, the authentication, which is the username. So over here, we pulled the username out. We went to our user details and we did the user details service, load user by username. So we pulled the user details out and then we got a token and added it to the system and did a get context set authentication. We set the authentication to the system, right? See how we did that? We also here, this is the name we set. No, not that, sorry. User details has a name, sorry. or user details, we have our implementation of user details. Don't forget, this is our implementation of user details, our user details impl. We can pull this back now. So since we can access our security context holder, we can also get our authentication. We have set authentication. It's safe to assume that there's a setter. Maybe there's a getter, right? Let's take a look. First things first, we do .get context, just like we've done before. And take a look. Set, and there's our getter. Next step is let's look a little bit. Let's look at this thing though. We'll use Jim's little trick here. So we don't know what data is storing yet. We'll say var for a second. We'll do var data because we don't know what we can get equals authentication dot, and what do we get here? Get what? We have get name, get details, get principal, get class, get credentials, get authorities. Not sure on this, right? Any of these look familiar?
Principal.
Principal does,
Oh,
yes.
Principal.
And then remember where. Is there a way for us to find it? So let's go look at it and see if that looks familiar to us.
There
Any
was-
guesses where that was?
Not where it was, but I remember getting principal somewhere. Because it was very questionable, like, what is a principal?
We did it here. So we did it under our generate JWT token.
Oh, yeah.
And what we do is the principal is our user details implementation. That's what it is. The principal is our user details implementation. That's where it sticks our user details implementation. The other items are, if we go back to, we didn't actually look at the authentication item, but Spring Security uses name. We didn't. So for us to get what we want, to get our username that we use in our system, we're going to use the same thing we did here. That's why we overrode the basic behavior of authentication and did get principal instead of get name. So we're going to do the exact same thing here because this is how we got our username, right? If you look here, there's our username. So since we have the authentication, which is right here, we can follow the same practice to get what we want, our username. That's again why I want to bring this back to you guys so you can see this again, because I knew this was going to come up again. This is how we get our data for the routes. I closed something. Actually, I don't think we care. I don't think we need that. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to details impl. Details. Again, I'm going to typecast it. Well, maybe not yet. Hold on. Get principal. Note again, what data type does it return?
Object.
Right, not very useful for us. We need to tell it what information it is. That's why we need to typecast it to our user details implementation. So we get access to our get username methods that we created. Again, for those who are, if you're a little rusty with it, that's this thing right here. This is where we have our get username, we have our get ID, and our get password. The only thing we care about here is the get username. Per se, though, we could probably use get ID, right? So we could use either one. What one do we want to use? What ID number are we getting here? That's the question.
Name.
The user?
We're actually getting the user, the model. Are we getting a ID? Are we getting a user detail ID or are we getting a user ID? That's what I want to make sure. Are we actually getting the ID from the table or are we getting a ID from user detail user ID? Sorry, a user detail ID.
A user detail ID.
User
We're actually
detail
getting are we getting the ID from the developer? That's where we're getting that username from?
No, we're getting the username from the user detail system. We're using this get username here, which is coming from our user. And now I heard someone else speaking for a second. What did you say?
That was me.
Anything?
I said user detail implementation ID.
Okay. Where is the ID set for this. We see it's here in the user details. Where is that set? So we can say for the beginning, it's not generated, right? Can we agree that that's not
It's set
generated?
in the constructor, I think.
This is the constructor. Yep. So we got the constructor here. This .id equals ID, long ID. So that means it has to be sent in the constructor. So it is something that's provided by an external source. Some external source is providing the ID number. So user details is not generating an ID number. So at least know it's probably not a user details ID, but is it being provided by Spring Security or are we providing it? Where is the constructor called?
I don't know.
I know you wouldn't. Yeah, you wouldn't know. Does anyone remember what was special about this guy? Why did we create our own implementation of user details service? There's a method in here that we built specifically for that for this.
Haven't made it that far in the videos.
I guess that I'm not expecting. I would be surprised if anyone from cohort 14 knew this. So part of this is trying to help you guys understand these items a little bit more. So I'm doing this on purpose. I'm hoping someone can figure it out, or maybe at least take a guess. But part of this is just to help you again make sure you guys understand what's happening here.
Well, I mean, the implement meaning that we're overriding what the default user details
Right.
actually,
Yeah.
you know, the defaulting of Spring Boot. We're overriding.
We want to have our own because we wanted to connect it to what? We want to make sure we connected the user detail system to what?
The user detail service.
Not the user detail service. We want to connect it to our user model, right? No, to our user model, right?
Oh.
We want to make sure the user detail service used our user model for like the username and stuff and the password. And the authorities uses our roles, right?
Mhm.
Where do we do all that again? Where do we tell it to use all of the user information? It's not, I'm going to give you guys one more hint. It's a trick question. Look down a little.
I'm going to web
It's in
security.
the build
config.
method.
You just said that.
The
Who
build
is that?
method right there.
Yeah, John's got it. Remember build, we send it a user. And I'm trying, and so remember, the user details implementation is actually a factory class. What we do is user details has a static method that builds an instance of itself by giving it something that can be mapped to it. So a user, we know that we built our user model to be used as a user detail system. We only need the user detail system because Spring needs it. We want to use our user system, but Spring requires the user details. And so what we did is we created an override of the user detail system with our implementation so that we could make a build constructor, a build method that would map our user system to a user detail model instance. And so that's literally what this does. This method builds a user detail instance out of a user. So you can see here, there's our constructor, user detail implementation, and there's the ID, and we're pulling it from what? The ID is coming from where?
User.
So is it coming from the model?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Seeing it a little better now? Seeing how these things are starting to connect? So in this case, we could probably do user detail.getID and jump straight to doing and then we're good for creating our developer, right? That's what we need. We need the ID number to create the developer. So controller, and we'll show you what I mean. So we do this, we map our user details, user detail implementation. We now do developer.setUser. Remember, oh wait, we have to pull it from we have to pull it from the database, right? So we want to make sure we don't override anything. So we do, how do we pull the user record again? We need user in current user, it's a common term. Current user. How do I pull from the database again? What do I need? I want to pull from the user model. What do I need?
The user model?
Yeah, I need to pull a user from the user model.
From the user repository, you mean, right?
I need I don't have a user repository yet, do I? So let's bring it in. Scroll back up to the top. Yeah, that wasn't a trick question. No, that was kind of tricky. It was just making you guys remember I need to bring in the repository. And again, this is where services might be nice because we're probably going to need, especially this repository, multiple times. But we're going to talk about that probably next week. We might do that next week.
Yeah, because this method is gonna be huge. You might as well break it out to a service.
Yeah. I import. Yep. Back down now. I can do user repository. Find ID. User details dot get ID. That'll get us our user potentially, right? Why is it red right now? Remember what's special about the find by ID?
Find by ID.
Yeah, what's special about it? What's that, Mike?
It's an optional.
Remember, it's optional. Find by ID does not guarantee it'll find something.
You need to throw.
Yeah. Status exception. We'll probably just say that this is probably an invalid token. If we got an ID number from a token, but then that user is no longer in the database, then that token is probably outdated and no longer valid. Meaning that their account got deleted. So we'll go ahead and put user authentication status. And what do you think, guys? I don't think created fits. Okay, doesn't really fit. Not found could work because we didn't find the user, but probably not really the best use case. What do you guys think? Yep. Well, maybe bad request could be it. Any other ideas?
I like okay.
It's not okay though.
It's okay. It's okay that it was invalid. I'm fine with that.
The teapot. They actually have it. Oh my god.
Teapot. I'm used.
Okay.
I'm used as a teapot.
Non-authoritative information. Wow, that's a mouthful.
I was gonna go with unauthorized. They're no longer authorized because their authentication is valid. So I feel like that's more accurate. What's that?
But they'll have like invalid token or invalid something like, I mean, like in today's world, it's like have those kind of invalid token.
Well, in that case, it would be a bad request.
Oh,
That would be yeah. But to be so, I like again. You guys are free to use the ones that fit for you and the company. But in this case, the professional response would be either bad gateway or bad request or unauthorized, because we weren't able to confirm that the authentication token they used was actually valid. We weren't able to confirm it when we got to the route. This is very unexpected because we already did do a user search during our filter. So if this was the fail, that means sometime in between our filter finding the user and our route finding the user got deleted. So this is very unlikely to happen, but it is something we always want to catch because again, a slow server, it is possible, especially if we found maybe like a spam system going through. We decided to, and our spam founder caught it and deleted it mid-route as it's sending, like, let's say this thing's sending like 20 requests a second. There's a good chance that, yeah, you know what? Between the time it pulled the user from the database and it tries to pull it from during the route, it got deleted because we had a system notice, hey, this thing is making a lot of requests that it shouldn't be, and decided to kill it. So always have that stuff in place, even though it's not likely to happen. Why is it upset? Isn't that the right? I thought I did that right. Or did I reverse them? Taking them backwards.
If you
Oh, right.
typed authentication on line 67.
Sorry, I'm thinking something different. Go ahead. 57.
On line 67, yep, you typed authentication.
Yep.
So the first part of that, what is that?
So this is a object from Spring Security. So this is the object they use for holding on to the current holding on to authentication information for the current person.
Mine, for some reason, when I'm typing it out, it's coming up as it can be a repository, it can be an object. There was a whole bunch of different ones when I'm typing it, and I'm
Yes.
not sure which one it's supposed to come up as.
It's the interface. Do they have a repository for it?
No, it worked. I have a, no, authentication's right. Mine
Yeah, there's
worked.
others. Yeah, this one right here, the Spring Framework Security Core. That's the one you want. For importing. The org Spring Framework Security
So-
Core. I forgot the Tomcat
There.
has a version of it. Yeah,
Okay, now it's right.
good.
Yep.
Y'all. Yeah, again, we should not be getting this, but we still at least want something in there. And I forgot that the string we don't need because we're doing a response status exception, not a response entity. So the string was unnecessary. Now that we have a user, we can go ahead and set user to current user. And now we're good to save it. And that way we'll save it with the new user account. This should create our first user that is connected to a developer. So let's go ahead and test this one time. So I'm going to go ahead and reboot. I'm going to boot up my server now. We're going to test this by looking at the database, by the way, just so it's clear how we're going to test this thing. Some of you might be thinking like, we don't have any routes or anything that connect user with developer yet. No, we're going to just check in the database that we have that connection. What happened? Storage engine, and then what?
Our message above that.
Yeah, I'll just read the first one first. See if it could, see if it was quick. See if it was like a quick, easy like explanation. It doesn't like the alter table developer add constraint. I like that. Wait, I think our table is user, isn't it? Hold on. I think I did that, didn't I? Hold on. Go back to my models. Maybe tell it the table name.
Table name is users.
Users, and I think it wants
Yeah,
user.
the entity is called name
Yeah,
users.
it wants user. User instead. So let's go ahead and go over again. Equals. That's what we need. Because yeah, we overrode the default behavior, which I think it does singular with JPA for the entity, if I remember correctly. Test by pulling up the terminal. I think I still haven't done this. Yep. PX attempts to fix my export. My SQL is going to be all the way up there. Fun. Type it out. I don't like typing out the URL. I need to save that to notes. Yeah. Wrong letters. There we go. Databases. DT likes tables. Yeah, we see that role, language, developer, all these are singular, and we made user users. So we need to clarify that because that means by default, JPA is going to look for a user table and we named it as users. So that's why I was going to do that. Still not happy though. Now what? Jesus. Okay, so the Tomcat wasn't able to start. That's not all right. Okay, that was anything wrong with my code.
And Cliff, when you get a second, could you go back to the developer controller for a minute?
Sorry, what do you mean you guys do?
The developer controller.
Sure.
Thank you. My code editor was freaking out and it wasn't telling me that I had problems. What authentication are we using again?
Oh. Eat this one. Line 16.
Oh, once. 16. Okay. Core.
No users available. Huh.
And the expected secondary table. Interesting. Fun.
Mine still doesn't like it.
All right, give me a second. We'll check that in a second. Once we get.
Yeah, of course.
So what did you change when you said yours didn't like it? Because I was finishing up the rest of
I
the.
wouldn't worry about it right now because it didn't work. So
Oh, okay.
once we find the one that works, we'll let you know because that should find it.
Trying to keep up with writing the code while you're doing it, because
No worries.
going back and watching the class afterwards just makes double the work.
No worries. Some join columns. All right, that's column ID. That's the column name we want. Oh, hold on. Not join columns. Okay, about that. All right, get out of this. I want the actual documentation. Let's go. Let's see. Name of the column referenced by this foreign key. The name of the foreign key column. Ready. The name of the foreign key column. Oh. Reference column name of the column referenced by this foreign key, ID. The name of the table that contains the column, users. Oh. That's correct. Should be right. Let's try again. Hold on. This is before. Jesus. It's a new table. Source. That's a strange one. Look back here again. It's all small characters, so that's correct. You know what? Let's just run a quick test here. I'm curious. I have to do some more testing on this. Tested this before, but we're just going to comment this out for a moment. My current users will no longer be valid, but it's fine. This is going to create a new user table. Unless it doesn't like the word user, actually, I just realized. Hold on. I'm going to change the quick. No, I don't want to lose all my existing data. Oh, no. I might need to dump my database, actually. I'm starting to think, though. Because we are. Go ahead, Jim.
I was thinking the user ID, isn't it user's ID? Because that's the name of the table, it's not user ID?
Oh, wait, you might be right on that. Hold
On the
on.
join
Yeah,
table, on
I think
57?
that might be it. That's what I might be missing. Yep, you might be right, actually. Might need user's ID. That might be it, actually. That might be what it needs.
Because I was just looking at the ID table and I was looking at, I saw the ID password. I'm like, wait a second, that's user's table's ID. It's not user table ID.
Oh, I forgot to do this. Hold on.
Unknown generic error. That's great.
Boot. Run. Oh, yeah, these error messages are great.
Yep, it works. If you type user's ID, it works. Mine's running now.
Mine's unhappy still. What did you type?
I just did I did that and it was working. I took the table out. Take table out.
I got a generic error. Hold on, I'll try.
Yeah, take that table out, take that out, and it ran.
And I put that back in. Good. Interesting. Let's see.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't need the user table anymore because I'm already referencing the table by the. Oh, you still got it. Oh.
Oh no, I didn't. I got an error, but it's running.
Yeah.
Unknown generic error. What?
So helpful.
But I didn't get that, but I did get it running though.
Great. I don't like that though.
I'll
I might
try
have to reboot my.
restarting it again.
No, I just did this is the second time I got it, so it'll happen again. Yeah, that's why I wanted to go start fixing stuff. 'Cause it gave that error before.
I didn't get that. So I don't know.
Alter table developer add constraint. One key user ID references users ID. It doesn't like the execution of that statement. So even though it started, I feel like it's not going to actually be connected. I'm trying to alter the table. I might have to dump my database. I might have to dump it and redo the database. I don't want to, but I might have to. And really, we probably should anyway, now that I really think about it, because we don't want any developers that don't have a user ID connected to them anymore. I should really dump everything but the language table. Yeah, I should really keep language. I can drop, so we're actually going to drop tables, so we'll recreate them. So I'm going to kill my server. And I would probably recommend you guys do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and drop developer. Drop table, right? Well, oh, right, I do have the word table, right? Drop. Yeah. That's
Don't you have to drop all the?
I put it. No, hold on. No, I put it in the wrong order. Drop table developer.
Oh.
And that doesn't read right to me, and I probably need to do the geek outs first because of the constraint. Yep, foreign key constraint. So I'm actually glad I did this. So you can see this cannot drop the table developer referenced by a foreign key constraint on table geek out. So the geek outs rely on developer. It has to have that. So I can't drop the developer unless the geek outs are out first. So
we have to drop approves first, though.
Probably, yeah.
Yep.
Let's see. Yep. The drop table approved.
Is there a way for you to just drop the entire database?
Yeah.
Probably. I think the term is cascade. I personally don't like that command.
But you could probably just.
Well, if you're going to drop base by, table by table.
Database.
Yeah.
We're also going to have to drop the developer language.
We will. Yeah, but we're not going to drop language. We're just going to drop developer language.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Drop geek out. Oh, yeah.
There.
For me, like, since I'm not and again, none of you guys are going to be actual SQL engineers. I personally don't like very aggressive commands. I get very nervous with them because companies close if you overdo your SQL. You have to be very careful with SQL. If you delete data you don't intend to for a company, that can cause the company to close. So for me, I don't like large scale commands since I'm not a SQL admin. I'm never trained to be a SQL admin or a SQL manager. So I try to avoid large scale commands that are going to affect a large amount of data personally. And this is just me being a sage maker. I've done bad commands before that have definitely set me back a couple hours. So I'm just very cautious when it comes to those type of things. So yeah, there's a way I'm sure to delete a row and say, hey, anything that's connected to this, delete those as well. But I don't like them because that just says I'm leaving it up to SQL to decide what should be deleted and what shouldn't. And so that's just, it gets very nervous for me. So yeah, there's most likely a way to do it. I just refuse to do it because I've made bad mistakes before. You can even talk to Gabe how he goofed up one of our databases before because he ran a bad SQL script and he had to spend a whole night fixing the database, which I helped him do, which was very tedious. He did goof up one of our databases before and I had to go in and help him try to restore that, and it took us a couple hours. So yeah, I don't like large scale SQL commands because I'm not a SQL admin. Yeah, feel free to go at it, but just be aware that if you do something wrong, you could definitely be in bad situation. Hopefully the company you work for backs up their databases. So drop the geek outs, then I can drop the, which one was it? Show tables. I'm gonna drop avatar. So drop drop table, avatar. Good. Nope, what? Okay, so it's the other, that's a different linking. So we went from developer to avatar. So avatar is based on developer. So that's fine. We do want to do developer language though then. Drop table. That's with an underscore, so that's not gonna work. Least drop table almost fur. There it goes. Drop table avatar. We'll do show tables again. We have our language, role, user roles, and users, which I probably could drop users and user roles, but I'm not gonna because those aren't really affecting, and I could actually then create an avatar for the user I already have. So that's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and restart my server now. So now I can create these tables originally and not try to alter an already existing table that has foreign key restrictions. And it's still upset at me. Why? What does it not like? Why are you altering a table? Table doesn't exist. Alter table geek out, add constraint, foreign key, developer ID versus developer ID. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. This table doesn't exist. I deleted it. Wait, I'm. Here's your properties. Update. Also create if it needs to. What's happening here? This is not behaving as it's done before. We want to, yep, I'm going to change this temporarily to create. Creates the databases. Should have done that anyway. Update's supposed to add database tables that don't exist. Still, oh God. Right, create it. What the? Oh, that's great. Why is everything gone? Oh God. Oh, fun. First it was create React app, that doesn't act up. Now my job is acting up. Thanks. Yeah, I know it doesn't exist. You're supposed to create it.
What do you have left? I think, what tables do you have left?
None. Looks like you killed them all.
Oh, okay.
Use Geeky likes. Go tables. Empty
Empty
set.
set.
He said, "Oh wow."
Why
Well,
would-
how
Why
did
did that
you, I saw you delete a lot, but you actually didn't go in and delete the,
No, I didn't want to delete the
associate-
languages and stuff because we added the languages already. I didn't
Yeah.
want to delete the user records. I didn't want to have to re-add the roles again.
just, I would just, at this point, just drop the table, or just drop the database and restart
Yeah,
it.
might have to. Yeah, gonna have to. Jesus Christ.
Oh man.
I don't like that because that means I have to reset. Schema
What?
directory. Oh, I have a schema already, and that's probably what this is trying to update then. I forgot MySQL has schemas. Right. Actually, we can do this.
I thought that what they're all called is schemas, is the database is a schema.
No, there's also schema file that
Oh.
I believe Java might use as well. And that's where it updates things. I really forget these things. I don't really work with the
When you're
schema
actually-
files.
When you're actually in the GUI that I use the sandbox, whatever it's called, it's called schemas under there. They don't call it databases. They call all your databases.
Right.
all-
So, but that's the table. The table definitions are stored in a schema file, and then the content of the table is stored somewhere else. So you have
Okay.
your schema, and then you have the content. And I'm starting to think that my drops didn't affect the schema, and so that's why Java thinks that things still exist, even though they don't exist anymore. That's
Yeah.
why it's not trying to create the tables, because the schema still exists. And so Java's confused thinking that it already exists. And so it's not trying to create it because it sees the schema. That's something I didn't know. This is actually good because I didn't actually fully understand it. I didn't look under the hood that much to see how JDP or JPA, sorry, how JPA actually scans or recognizes the database. I was torn to know if it actually did the schema or if it actually like did query commands on the database, like the show table and did like a query. This shows me that what Java is using is the schema. So unfortunately, what I could have done after my drops was clean up the schema as well. And that would have made probably JPA happy. Unfortunately, I didn't. So I didn't know what JPA did. But again, this is good. Now you guys have more information. Now just make sure to clear the schema. I'm trying to get that stored. Schema directory, where is that again? This is good for you guys to know too, in case you ever want to clean it up. Then again, I could always we could just create Geeky Likes 2 just to start fresh. What do you guys want to do faster? Do you want to actually see how to do this? Do you want to just do Geeky Likes 2? Does stuff matter to you guys?
Learning how to fix it would be
I
good.
don't have my notes, so we actually got to look it up. So I got to find that again.
Down to dig through it.
Wolfhead, want to dig through it? All right. Just make sure, because we're already hitting 8 o'clock. We haven't done anything on React yet. So before we finish this up, and then we'll do
That's
React.
exactly why I
and
said
stay.
dig through it.
He's not looking forward to JavaScript.
Nah, it's whatever the class wants. It's fine.
I say React.
There you go.
Come on, that's still React.
It shouldn't take too long to drop the, it shouldn't take too long to
Yeah,
drop
no.
that whole thing.
It shouldn't. I just remember where it is. Where is the database stored?
But
I
I mean,
remember. Hold on. Ah, exit.
I appreciate Cliff's whole thing with using this command prompting and going through all this stuff because it is very knowledgeable. But the GUI for me is quick. Dun, 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 I'm done. Let's go. Let's start. Run up and start over again.
That doesn't look right. Data, maybe?
Is this something that we're all going to have to do?
No, this is also why, yes, if you actually want to do what I do, potentially, especially if you're getting the same errors I got when you ran it, then yeah, you'll need to clean up your database. This is why I'm tempted to just say, let's use a second database that you don't have to run all these commands too.
Yeah, mine didn't junk them all. I'm confused as to
Yeah.
what happened with yours.
Here you go. Geeky likes and good. Yeah.
There it all is. God dang it. All right, we're just gonna kill all that. So we're just gonna RM it because we dropped the table. So RM.
Actually, you could probably drop the whole directory and then just start over again.
I'm doing, yeah. Yep. Single data. He likes. And go back here. SQL command that I did before. That's not the right word. That one. Likes, semicolon. Permission denied.
Oh, because you didn't give yourself well, wait.
I'm root.
Oh.
What? Hold on. What?
Okay,
Sorry.
You
I have
are
to use
yeah,
sudo.
You are en route. Yeah. What?
Oh, well, yeah.
Oh, it's not even gonna let you. Okay, there you
Yeah,
go.
sudo it?
I'm gonna
You're gonna
try.
have to.
Well, I don't know what password it's asking me though for.
Isn't sudo your main user for your Mac?
It
Yeah, that
says
should
to
be-
run as root. It says to run as Mac root, not as the user. It is
Oh.
a root, or sorry, root permissions.
Whenever I do sudo, it's usually my user's password, not the root
Yeah,
password.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's password. And enter password is for SQL. There we go. Jesus Christ. No. What the?
Reboot.
Said not today.
Man. It's good to see the teacher get made denied. Denied making a React
I
app.
know.
denied
We
making
didn't have
a-
that happen before, and I didn't. What is going on? Try to reboot your computer. Really?
It said better luck next time.
It would suck though. You shouldn't be rebooting your computer. though.
No.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, that's awful.
No, it
Okay, I guess we're gonna be testing this on Monday.
Oh, great.
Because if I reboot right now, we're gonna lose the recording and everything
should-
too.
I know.
So-
But it seems that
That doesn't make any sense.
no,
Oh
it
yeah,
doesn't.
you're not recording to the cloud. Yeah, you would lose it.
Oracle, oh. So how about just make it, well, I guess it doesn't make a difference because you denied even both, even if you
Yeah.
made a directory called A. And it would make, make a database called A, it would still deny you, I guess.
I'm gonna try this then. Hold on. I'll try something. Have this show tables or show databases. Geeky test. I did some
And-
testing. And that's the one I've done before to test with this system. And that one doesn't use John Wick, so I need to do grant on test 2, John Wick, right? How small? Yeah, John Wick. It. What do I do? All on. Oh, the quotes are on that one. Whoopsie. There we go. There we go. Fingers crossed. Then again, I may not have the rights to edit them now. Maybe that could be what, you know what? Now there's a good chance that my entire errors is just I had no authentication to change that folder. I'm starting to think that might have been it from now on. Every time I was trying to run the alter command, it doesn't have the right to alter the schema. So I'm permission denied right now. All my errors probably were not Java related at all. It probably is like I'm probably restricted from modifying the schema. That would actually that would make a lot more sense because what I'm trying to do is alter the schema.
Yeah, but you were generating new tables with the other stuff though.
I wasn't. That was the thing. It kept trying to do the alter table command and was saying it couldn't. Error executing the command. It's not allowed to enter to do the command. I'm wondering if I just can't do it right now because I need to reboot my system apparently. All right, we're gonna go to React. I want to fix this over the weekend next.
Before we move on, can we try to figure? Yeah, thank you.
Now you said, oh, hold on. Actually, one of you said yours worked, right? Or at least it ran. Did anyone get theirs to run?
Yeah, mine runs.
Matt, can you? Well, actually, no, Matt. Well, I don't know. How do you choose him to have slow computers when you run it? Don't you? Oh no, Matt.
Nope, I have the
yours runs better
powered
now, don't
gaming
you?
laptop now.
Right, yours runs better now. I remember you used to be slow. Now it doesn't anymore. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, sure.
I think we can actually at least show the test that it works the way I want it to. So everyone who at least got theirs, their database
I do have to fix this method to get it to work.
Gotcha.
Because this is still upset for some reason.
Yes, let's figure that out.
You forgot to dot something after context.
Yeah, dot get authentication.
Oh, no,
Nope.
sorry, not get principal. Sorry.
That one.
Oh, okay, cool.
Hey, get context doesn't get authentication. Authentication gets authentication.
Yeah,
There
my
you go.
code editor wasn't what's the word? Analyzing any of my code. So
geez.
I couldn't see that there was a problem. I had to clear the cache, which was annoying.
Gotcha.
But it took me half your lesson to try to isolate what the problem was, so I was a little bit behind.
So you're up and running. So let's head over to Postman.
You got it, boss.
Wow, 2 classes in a row. My computer just isn't happy with me. Fun.
To a PC.
Jesus.
I'm to switch for Windows.
No, I probably just have to reboot my computer. I probably haven't rebooted this thing in a couple months, honestly, because I always have like 15 different projects open at any given time.
One. There we are.
Come
If you had a
on,
Windows,
just
you wouldn't have to
these.
reboot.
Okay. So what are we doing here?
We're gonna create an account first. So we'll create a new one. So we have a new token and things like that. We can see that whole process. So we'll do API/auth/sign-up.
Okay.
Can't do Freddy because he's already in there. So
Well, no, I just dropped all
bring
the
me in.
table. Oh, no,
Oh,
not
no, you
these
didn't.
tables.
Yeah.
Not those tables. Drop the other ones. So
Got it. Username.
username.
Put yourself, me, whatever. I don't care.
I don't think I have you in here yet, so I'll put you in here.
Go for it. I like it. Give me a good one.
On the spot, huh?
Yeah. By good, I mean you can have fun. All right. That's
Not
actually
great, but it'll
horrible.
work.
Better than what you could have done, or at least more secure than what you could have done. You don't need to give me a role. It's fine. Give me a
Oh
standard
yeah,
role.
it'll
Yeah.
default. That's right.
Yeah, I don't need that right now, and we're not doing. We don't need to do anything that is admin centric yet.
And this is a post.
Yep. Good. Let's go ahead and switch that to sign in. Hit the button again. So again, this is what the front end is doing right now. We're mimicking the front end.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
What happened? This was just working.
pop over. Let's see. Modify that credentials.
I just had this working.
Send it again. What the hell?
You didn't send the token. Oh, wait, you're supposed to receive a token.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here.
These are both posts, yeah?
I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me double check on
And even
that.
then, the auth path shouldn't be authenticating anything. Unless, yeah, it's saying, unless it thinks that the username and password is wrong. You were able to log in as Freddy, weren't you?
Yeah, I just did that before class.
So try that, I guess.
Let me test with that.
We would just undo, yeah.
Yeah,
Hit the button.
that works. It doesn't like you for
You-
some reason, Cliff.
oh,
I
you-
don't know what to tell you.
What
Oh,
if
wait
you
a minute.
require
No,
roles?
Do you have to specify the role,
or
or
Not
does
in
it?
sign in.
Because that was the only thing that was different. That's
Yeah.
was it because I still had an auth token in here while I was trying to sign in?
I wouldn't think so.
I would
Let me
think so.
t- I just want to
Let's try it,
test
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, go back to the
Yes.
body, redo now. So Command Z, Command Shift Z. Oh no, Control Y, sorry.
Control Y.
For wait, Windows. Just hit Control Y a bunch of times.
There. Nope, wrong thing.
Well, there you
But I
go.
was up here. Nope,
No,
still doesn't
all right.
like you,
Well,
Cliff.
we'll look on that later. Well, maybe there's a good chance maybe you didn't you accidentally did you're not auto assigning me a user role maybe. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean your auto
Let me-
assign your auto
yeah, it's
configuration might
too
not be
late now.
working. It's too late to
Too
edit now.
late
So yeah, don't worry about it in a moment.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oop.
that would be what I would have to assume. We have Freddy, so let's use Freddy's key then.
Glad that works at least, because if this whole thing was broken again, I was gonna be really upset. You have no idea.
It's just not my day. Yeah, well, there you go. Let's do a new tab so we never have to worry about the authorization tab being a pain in the butt.
Sure. Pop that over here.
Localhost. Yep. Then we're going to do API developers. I'm going to switch the get to a post again. Go to the authorization tag first, and let's put in our bearer token. Paste that in. Let's go to the body, JSON. And now we need to put the developer information, which is name.
Which is the
Right now we're using
email.
Freddy. So no, this is actual name.
Oh, right.
Human name.
That's right. That's right.
Now we can put the email in again. So we do, because we do need that in our system currently. We can eventually
What
remove that later if we want to.
Was the
Pretty
email?
creatives. This is actual email. Technically, it doesn't have to match right now. We have nothing that forces it, but it's probably a good idea to match it. And then cohort, which is a number, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it is.
Let's go ahead and send that. There it is. And if we go to the database for a second.
MySQL.
SQL. Yeah, MySQL. Yep. I run a couple of SQL commands to verify that the user ID is stored somewhere in it. Either on the user table, we see the developer ID, or on the developer table, we see the user ID. So let's see where we get it. So we can do select star from, or select star from developers where ID equals 9. Oh, sorry, developer. Sorry. Where ID equal 9. So I saw that Freddy's dev ID is 9. There it is, user's ID. And let's confirm, select star from users, where ID is 3. I think it's users, we'll find out.
Yeah, it is users. That's right.
Oh, there we go. And there it is. As we see, they are connected. Okay, good. So my code did work. Good. Just having a problem with my database. What a day.
Cool.
So you at least have that. I am not looking great for the new students. First week, and I have 2 errors in the first week. I need you guys to tell them this is not normal.
It's very not normal.
What a great start.
It happens every other week, man.
Can you go back, can you go back to
Aaron.
Postman for
How
a
dare
second?
you. What are we doing back to
Can
Postman?
you-
What?
Can you open it up one more time? I was actually testing mine.
Oh, Matt, do you want to share your again so we can see what you're
Oh,
doing?
yeah. Sorry.
No worries.
Oh, you have to.
Oh, I
click
gotta
share.
stop, right? Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
And what is it you want to see?
Postman.
Postman.
Okay. Let me reopen that.
Oh, you closed it already, so your command might already be gone unless it's saved.
No, it saves,
Oh, good. Okay, good.
I think.
It did. Awesome.
All right, so you went to developers.
Yep. Post. The authorization has the token and the body has the
So
developer data.
authorization was bearer token.
And you paste the token in.
And then we just make the body of the developer that we want to make.
All right, and then it's a post, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, mine worked. I don't know why it said I gave it a username. Oh, you know what? It's because it was supposed to be name, not username.
Yes. Yeah, it gets the username from the user record. And we only need the ID actually. So that's why we did what we did. All right. So again, goal for you guys over the weekend for your Expressian app is to do this to your either employee or customer records. So you get to decide who your users logging in. So the Expressian app, again, we wanted you guys to get users in there. Decide where you want to connect it to first and how you want to connect it. Now, this one can be where it's difficult. If you actually want to allow both users and employees to log in, you know how to figure out how you want to connect those two. Now, what's good though is that you can have an optional one-to-one. So remember, not every single user has to have an employee and develop and let's say customer. So a user record could be either an employee or a customer, right? And so you could have the employee ID and customer ID in there, or not, honestly, that's what you have in ours. We have neither. Our user record doesn't keep track of the profile. The profile is what links it to the user account. And so in your Expressian app, that's actually a really great way of setting it up, because then we don't know via the user table what they are except through their roles. Their roles let you know who they are. But even then, again, the row in the user table doesn't clarify that. And one of the benefits of this, of not having the roles in that user table, is again, if somehow a hacker was to get a snapshot of the user table, they don't know which user account is actually worthwhile. If they just got the user table, they don't know which one of those users are an actual admin, who's a moderator, or who's an everyday user, right? If you just do a select star from the users table, that doesn't really give you anything useful of who is actually a good account I should try to hack. I have to, and especially in a large system, I got 1,000 users. Which one's an admin, which one's a moderator, which one's a user, which one's a disabled account. And so this is going to be, again, that benefit of having the roles, again, separated by this many to many interface. So by having these systems, again, you're kind of abstracting away systems, abstracting away data that makes it, again, more annoying for the developer. So in this case, with your Expressian app, again, the user account doesn't know if it's pointing to a employee or a customer. It's the employee record that will point to the user record for the employee, and it's the customer entity that will point back to the user as well. And then the user record will just have the model of the role that it requires, role customer or role employee. So it's actually not a difficult setup for that, and you can add the one-to-one on both the employee and the customer model, if you want to do that. If you want to stick with just one for now, where only employees can log in, that's fine. We talked about how there are systems like that. Hell, donations, like if you're going to a site where you want to make a donation, you don't always have to log in to make a donation. You can do an anonymous donation. And so for that page, let's say that's all they want. They only want anonymous donations. You never have to log into our site. You can put a name in on the text field if you want. You never have to log into our site to donate money. So we have an admin site, though, so that the administrators can go in, collect the funds, disable the donation, maybe create new charities or new donation like systems or something like that. Anyone go to the site and make a donation without a single sign-in. And so you wouldn't have to worry about, like, then only the employee system is needed. So the main thing, again, is just integrating this, getting practice with this authentication system in your Expressian app. And whatever you can do, I always recommend doing more. But again, always get at least something working first. Don't worry about trying to get both employees and customers in your car rental app working at the same time. Pick one and get that one working first. Only after you get that one working can you decide, you know, okay, I do want to add in the employee system too, or I do want to add in the customers too. So pick one, get that working. Again, cohort 14, your goal is just to get to that point where you can actually work on that. Keep going through the videos, keep asking questions, keep looking through this stuff and going through it. Like I said, during the break, we will pick a day on the week we have the whole week off, that we will do one class day where we can, if you need to, we can go through the whole authentication system together, from beginning to end. We'll code it out again. I will pull the code from my branch that was pre-auth. So we can go ahead and walk through that program again. You can see that whole process again. All right.
So just a few things. I understand we created something very simple, but just to expand it all, I could actually have like say an admin class and then have all additional stuff like username, password, but have more information. That could be and it's
100%.
something too. I can actually do that. Also have like in my Expression, I can have the customer have role customer, and just every time the customer just is specifically always defaulted and not go any beyond that. I can fix it to be role customer every single time a customer rolls in. And then I can set up logic or whatever for that customer role to be only allowed to do only these. Okay.
Yep.
I
Exactly.
understand that if I don't necessarily need to have like the roles to be specific classes in their own selves, but
nope.
I can tailor them that way to give them more expansion or less or whatever I want to do with them.
And again, it's based on what content you need. We don't need for a customer, we probably don't, I'm going to say, yeah, because I did car rental. You don't need the customer's social security number, but for an employee, you do. So for an employee, you need the employee's social security number so you can do tax stuff for them, but you don't need that for a customer. We don't need our employee's credit card number to charge. We need that from our customer in case they decide to damage our property, things like that. So there's data for a customer that we wouldn't need on an employee, and there's employee data that we would need that we don't need from an employee, from a customer. And so that's why you might need the two separate classes for that with the two separate roles. So they are different in both ways with what they can do and what data we store. And at the same time, though, you could have a single role, but still have two different classes based on what type of people are qualifying that role. And that could be something, I guess, again, this is just a quick example off the top of my head that probably doesn't apply, but like a shopper and a test shopper, for example. So they're both shoppers, but one of them you have more information because they're testing your company to see if they sell correctly. So you have more information on that person. They only have access to the site as a shopper would, as an everyday customer would. So they have the same customer role. We have a different class. We can track additional different information about them because they are actually an employee of the company, but they're acting as a shopper on the site to make sure that the site works for them. Again, not a great example, but because the concept to get that idea that two users have the same role but have a different profile class because the data we want to store is different, right? So that's the thing. There's a lot of customization in here, and there's a lot you can do. Again, keep it simple to begin with, and you can always expand on it as you get farther on. As you make simple things work, you can get complex. Just think about all the different types of profiles or different things you can build in like Facebook and stuff, and how you can create both a club page, a company page, an event page, a marketplace thing. There's so many things you can do on that and different roles that come with, and you can even create an account for a company that multiple people can log into. So there's just remember that again, though, a lot of that complexity didn't come until later. Again, the original Facebook, you had to have a .edu email account just to be able to log into Facebook, even to register for it. And so back then, yeah, I'm sure that the user profile, like the profile data model for that had school name built into it. Like it was a required field, your school name and what year you were in, what you're a freshman, senior, sophomore, whatever. Those were probably part of the normal profile data. But then as they expanded, as they grew up, they then separated that and created one for everyday people, for companies. And then they also created one later on for children once they realized kids were signing up, people under 18 but above 13, because they're not allowed to store as much information for kids. They have to store less. So they probably have a different one for anybody that actually identifies themselves accurately as an underage, that they store less data in the database and capture less information because of COPPA and stuff like that. Then again, knowing Facebook, they probably find a way to get around it and store as much data as they can. To be completely transparent on that, they probably definitely store the data, but of course they will never admit it. And if they ever show anybody anything, it doesn't look like it's there. It's all hidden away until the person hits 18. All right, let's get to React. We got about half. We're going to do about half an hour, 45 minutes of it. Again, this is really just the intro stuff, just getting an idea of what we can build, what we can do. So, share screen here. That's not right. Projects. 12 demo. There we are. So I have done nothing but the Create React app. I didn't even do the stuff that I had Sergio do the day before. So we're going to do that again, just make sure it's all there. So source, app.js. See what we had here. We did last time was we did name equals with, and we did typed in my name again. Again, open the terminal in Visual Studio Code. I do Control-Shift-, and then I can do npm start. How the hell did that come?
Oh, geez. Just opens the window automatically.
Yep, it can. There. Oh, I didn't. Did I save? I didn't save.
Save.
It does. There we go. That's fun to look at. Highlight the picture. See the actual shape of the picture. It's a nice rectangle. All right. All right. So, that's not what I wanted to do. So let's talk about components. What we can do. So what React is, so let's actually go to a whiteboard actually. Screen and share, back to whiteboard. No, I don't do that. Click that. Cool. Clear this out. Draw. All right, so normal web pages. Normal web pages follow what's called a document object model.
DOM.
Yep, good. The DOM, which is just a sheet of tags and elements that are on the page. All that, yeah, like our footers, like that. And normally, we want to edit something, we would have to target something by a class ID or a ID number, a class or an ID, class name or an ID name, and we'd have to modify the content itself. And while good, was not effective. And again, it was page specific. And having to try to change an entire page would be really difficult because things might shift around, the CSS might not match as much. And so how React changes it, it changed the document object model to be a component system, where now we have pieces of systems. We have chunks of pieces. So we have our image component. We then have our, what do I want to say here? Let's say our content, main content component, main content component, which has all the text and stuff here, plus an image. Then let's say we have a list of news. So we have our news list component, which is the component full of news, or yeah, news. What would we say? This would actually, how we would call this in React a little better, to make it a little nicer, is we probably call this actually our articles component. And it would be full of a bunch of article components. So article, et cetera, et cetera. And because these are individual components, we can easily hide or show certain components based on where we are. We can also click on one and have this one become the main component and just shift it and change it without having to go to a whole other page, without having to unload this, for example, and move things around. We wouldn't have to unload certain things. We would just redraw the component we want to do. And that's something that's really cool about React as well, React has something called the virtual DOM. So right next to it, what you don't see is a replication of the exact same thing, which I wonder if I can copy paste because I don't have to write that all out again. Yeah, I'll get rid of this for a second. That can I not delete? Yeah. That away for a second. I don't think it's gonna let me copy paste. It doesn't look like it's gonna let me. Nope. Of course not. That'd be too easy. Virtual DOM. Image. Articles. Article. And so what React does is, let's say it's anytime data that it's monitoring changes, something called state. So React's data is called state, and every component has its own state. And if any component state changes, what React does is it does something called a re-render of any components that are based on that state. So any component and child component that rely on that state, React is going to re-render its information on the virtual DOM first, not on the front page. It's going to do it in the virtual DOM and see, did anything change between the virtual DOM and the current DOM? Did anything change? And if it says, oh, yep, this line right here, the content changed to something different. We're going to make it a little more different. Hold on. That bit of text there changed. What it then does is it comes back over to the actual DOM, what it actually gives to the user and changes just that little bit that was changed in the background. Even if everything else did kind of re-render, what React does is it only sends the new information to the actual front end. And if nothing actually visually changes, React doesn't change anything here. React reacts to changes in data and only shows information that changes or data that changes. This is a really intelligent kind of system. And this is where, again, it can hide some of it, can reduce some of the weird behaviors that websites can do when things move around, but nothing really changes. We have clipping and things popping around. React does a lot of its checking for changes in a virtual DOM before ever updating the actual system you're looking at, which is really, really powerful. And that idea of only re-rendering the items that actually rely on it is helpful as well. So for example, that means your nav bar may never need to re-render or kind of disappear and come back in. When you fill out a form and hit submit, the form might go away, but everything else can stay until the new data gets loaded in. Your footer actually never disappears, for example. So these are the really powerful things you can get from React. Again, components are reusable and they can be replicated really quickly. So let's do something interesting here. Let's go ahead and do share. Back to our desktop one. So let's go ahead and clean up this demo page. We're actually going to get rid of everything in here. Clear out app.js. We just want the div class name app. All right. That my demo. Oh, yeah, I don't think I do.
All right, so everything is at the div, basically.
Good. Let's go. My stuff. Then there it is. Okay. Need that. So all right. What were you saying? Everything good?
Yeah.
Okay. First things first, let's go ahead and do this. We're going to create, under source, we're going to create a new folder called components. It's a very common folder to have. This is where we're going to store all the components we create. Next folder we're going to create is our first component. We're just going to call Counter. I guess we'll do. Yeah, we'll go with counter. Now, commonly all components are capitalized. So all your components are going to be capitalized, and you'll have a folder plus usually the component itself in there. So I'm going to do a new file, counter.js. What I'm going to do here is we just do a simple box that is outlined. That'll just store a number and say this is box X. So do and every single one, by the way. So this is your first little bit of predefined code. Import React from React. And this right here is your first exposure also to that. Yep, I did the wrong one. It's supposed to be capital R React. Oopsie. And quotes. There we go. Did that wrong. There we go. So import React from React. There we go.
So mine did not do what yours did.
It
Yeah,
couldn't
yours
have done
did
that, yeah.
components and then / counter. Mine
Yeah.
did not do that. Mine just made a folder inside of it.
Yeah, I did a folder and then a file. So that's a folder inside of a folder. So yeah, if I click on components to do a new folder again, just for the fun of it, I'm also going to do common. So that's a good folder to have. It does
Okay,
this
so
now.
now yours looks like mine.
Yeah. I might have a newer version of Visual Studio Code. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know why mine does that.
It looks like it's the same story for IntelliJ like we went over
Yeah.
earlier.
Yep. It's doing the same thing IntelliJ does. But I don't know what caused my system to start doing that. It just started doing that randomly. Because it used to not do that. But and anyway, yeah, everyone can add that common folder if you want to. Because we're going to start adding stuff to that too as well.
So if you can go back to the counter just quickly.
It's still open. This is it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's import. Yeah.
So the first thing we're going to clarify, this line 1 here, this is already experiencing something called ES6. This is a more modern version of JavaScript code. You guys are more used to seeing this. Const React equals import React. Was that command import command?
Yeah, that looks more.
Oh no, not
familiar with what
import,
you're saying.
require.
Yes,
That
the
was
require.
it.
Yeah.
I was doing Java. So require React. This is the normal JavaScript terminology that is recognized by all browsers and is guaranteed to work. ES6 is newer JavaScript that may not work on all browsers, that it hasn't necessarily been accepted by all browsers.
Oh.
Yep.
So mine did something interesting. Next to it, it says gzipped : 2.9K.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's actually trying to import something.
Show your screen quick. I've never seen that before. I don't know. That does not sound familiar to me. So I'm just curious what it sees so I can make sure that you're not having a problem. Doesn't sound bad, but I'm curious. I don't know what that is because that's not JavaScript. That's your editor.
Yeah, that looks like a plugin of some kind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. If I don't have to
Yeah,
worry
I
about
don't-
it, then I'll ignore it.
I'm going to ignore it for the moment. Unfortunately, yeah, I can't. I don't really support a lot of plugins, and you guys, from several of you that came from Gabe, have a lot of plugins in there, and I highly recommend being very minimal on your plugins. I don't know side effects on that. If your plugins cause any issues, I won't really be able to help you much.
Where have I heard that before? All right.
I can't support things that I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, be like I can fix everything. I am the ultimate geek.
Sergio with his modded out.
Decked out the Visual Studio.
There you go. Yeah, I won't lie to you guys. Be like, I can fix any editor in any system. Nope. I can definitely try, but it's not going to work. Anyway, so we got that. So the next part. So what will we have? Oh yeah. So what was I saying? So yeah, this is ES6. The reason why we can use ES6 in React is because React and Create React App comes with another package from npm called Babel. Babel is a JavaScript compiler. And so JavaScript is an interpreted language. but Babel allows you to do a compiled language. So you can write in ES6, and then when you build your code or send it to the browser, Babel will convert your modern code into browser-friendly code, into the code that the browsers recognize. And so, as you see here, put in next-gen JavaScript and get the browser-compatible code. Got that out.
Oh,
Pretty sick logo.
And
yeah, it looks like
Apple.
Cyberpunk.
React
Yeah.
from React. Here, use strict, var React, intro, get all that fun stuff. And so it rewrites this one line as all of this stuff.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to introduce you to the next type of ES6 we're going to use, and we're going to type this exact same line in the other one. So you're used to seeing the function command for writing a function, right? Function app, curly brackets. How many of you have ever mistyped the word function? Right? It's not a fun word, is it, actually? Function is a bit of a misnomer. It's not that fun, is it? Matt got
Auto
it.
completes for you.
Yeah, but doesn't mean you always do it. If it's slow and you're a fast typer, you don't always need the autocomplete. But I'm sure everyone here has at least mistyped it once. So ES6 has the arrow function. Counter equals
Oh, yeah.
the arrow function. Note that the arrow function actually is recognized by JavaScript. So I was actually expecting that to use turn it into the function method, but I forgot that, yeah, browsers finally added that in, so it doesn't need to be recompiled. But this right here is equivalent to
Oh, Jesus.
line 3 and line 7 are identical. They do the exact same thing. So this is a function and this is a function. One doesn't require the word function. And another one of the benefits of this one as well, is when we have a function with a single parameter, a single variable that we can send to it, we don't need parentheses. So I can do this. And I'm valid. If I need more than one parameter, then I do need properties. I do need parentheses. So props, comma, something. I do need the parentheses then. But if I only have one variable that I need, I don't need the parentheses anymore.
Oh, wow.
Convenience, syntactic sugar, friendliness to the developer. And it reads a little nicer.
If I
Come on,
like
counter. It gets a little used to, but it's something. And again, you can put parentheses if you want. Oop, I forgot this didn't have the replacement system, but we're now going to go back to Visual Studio Code with this line right here. So let's go back there. But yeah, Babel allows us to write ES6 and get our ES6 converted to Java, the standard JavaScript. The other reason we want this is because without Babel, JSX would be a nightmare. You wouldn't be able to use JSX. You'd have to do react.createElement. Hold on, ready?
Oh.
I think it's going to show it. Please do it, Mike. I wish it does it. Please. Turn. Yes. Yep, there it goes. That's what you would have to type. There you go. There you go. This is what you would have to type if you wanted to not use Babel. React.default.createElement div null react.default.createElement. Look how nested it gets. So because the A is inside that. Jim?
Didn't we do some of this stuff with Reese and the beginning of React had all this kind of stuff?
If you did, then maybe, but I don't remember. I never had you guys do this.
Elemental by
Oh God.
ID and all that stuff. I remember doing like all this old stuff. It was just very confusing.
Yeah, not with React. You shouldn't have to. And that's why I want to make sure you guys understand that we have Babel, and that's something to be good with. And that's why you're going to see some more nicer syntax of JavaScript and why it's usable. But at the same time, some of the JavaScript code you're going to be using, if you're ever to go to do JavaScript in like HackerRank or on a algorithm, some of this code you wouldn't be able to use. So just be aware of that. Unless you can actually set up Babel yourself, just be aware that this is there because React comes with Babel. It's part of that create React app script we used. They included it for us and included the configuration for it.
I remember
If you're
that
doing-
back in the day.
Yeah. If you wanted to do, if you were doing it yourself with your own JavaScript file, you would have to install and set up Babel yourself, which can be a bit of a nuisance and not always the easiest setup. So just be aware. And that's all I'm really doing here. Do you really need to worry about it? No. But it's good for you to know. So if you ever type import something from something and it doesn't work, you know why. You need to switch to require because you don't have Babel. All right. That's the basics I'm going to be able to give you guys. Basic introduction to that, just so you at least know about it, so you at least drop some keywords, and you can look into it more if you want.
Yeah, back in the day, I remember we had to install that because it didn't come with it.
Yep, because Create React app really also wasn't great either. Anyway, so let's rewrite that same code we had before. Const counter equals props arrow curly bracket. Right. And here we're just going to do return. Every single component needs to return something, and it needs to return a single tag. That's the next main rule I'm going to give you. Now I can have multiple tags inside, but it's one parent tag. Does that make sense?
Yeah, those are parentheses, not curly braces, right?
Parentheses, yep. Return parentheses. Okay. This is not allowed. These are two tags that are two tags together. I could include these two tags if I wrap them in another div. Ah, wrong button. Like this, I can now do that. I now have the two divs inside of a parent div. And so I have one parent tag. I will say there is a cool little trick that you can do called import React fragment.
Oh, this is.
Yeah, you can use the empty. Yeah, I could do empty with them, or you can type the word fragment.
Yeah.
Either empty.
Well, fragment is a component from React that React won't even render this. This does not even exist in the source. I believe empty will actually exist if you do right-click source. Fragment doesn't exist in the source. So React won't create another tag, which can't throw off CSS. That's the difference between fragment and empty. Empty is still a tag and can still throw off CSS. Fragment is not a tag at all. It will not render anything to the HTML and will benefit CSS. Just be aware of that. So that's why you want to use fragment. But again, we're not going to do too much about that. I just want to make sure that there are tons of tools and things you can look into. Most cases though, 9 times out of 10, you just want to do a single element or single tag, parent tag for your components. Everything should be able to be contained in a single tag. But just be aware though, that's not a rule. You're not required to use a single div or a single actual HTML element. There are workarounds and tons of tools to really allow you to customize what you want to do. All right.
What I see they normally do is that they create a div and give the class name with the function name.
Usually. And that's if you want to use that kind of, if you want to use classes for CSS. I tend to just do inline CSS, but we'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, right. So here we're just do A. This box. We're just gonna put a number for now. We're gonna use actual code later. Actually, let's use a placeholder. Let's do that actually. That's better for us. Let's num equals 1. Box num.
Oh, is that inside of counter?
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yep. Oh, I did A. I meant to do P. My bad. Like, why is it upset with me?
It's like what?
I did a link. A tag is a link. I don't know.
It's a little weird about that. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go with it. I'm going with it.
No worries. No worries.
I'll take it.
Exactly. We're gonna get a link later, but yeah, we're gonna do this first. So we have this is a box. This is box num. It's gonna show number 1. And the last thing we need to do is, of course, make this file importable or requirable by other files. And the way we do that is do export default. Oh no, default exports. No, wait.
It's export default.
Export default.
Yeah, export default. No, it's just default.
I'm thinking non-ES6, one of them, the modules, that's what it is, modules.export or something like that. Yeah, that's the plural one. Export default counter.
I was about
There
to
we go.
say you have the same exact thing at the bottom app as well.
Oh, hi.
Default app.
So you do.
Damn peripheral vision not working for me this time. Yeah, this is because we do this, we can then import. We know that this is import.
This is
Go
a
ahead.
kind of like a template for React. You always have to import React. You always have to have a function, and you always have to export that function.
Yeah, what I can say, line 1, line 3, and line 13, as well. Oh, sorry. 1. Yeah. Line 1, line 3, line 6, and line 13 are all required. If you are missing one of those, your component's not going to work. Simple enough. So if you ever have an error with importing with using a component, first things first is to just check those 4 things. Did I import React? Did I create a function? Did I return with parentheses? And did I export it? All right. Those are your 4 things to check. Everything else is a little more complex, but yeah, those are your main things that you need. Let's bring this in quick. We're just going to bring it in as is to start. So we're going to go ahead and go here. We're going to do counter. Now we do this. We're going to use our Linux-based file structure or locating. So dot for current folder / components. Ooh, let me know if that stuff doesn't pop up because I just realized I might have a plugin that you guys might not have. So yeah.
That's running
For me.
Yeah, I hit tab by accident and it just filled out the whole line.
Okay, good. I want to make sure everybody has that package because you don't. I can show you the plugins I have. So, all right, good. Everybody is interested though in knowing the extensions I have, by the way, that I use more, not the Azure stuff, but bracket pair colorizer is nice because you have your brackets colored that are paired up together. ESLint.
Excuse Mr. No Plugin over here.
I use like 5.
Oh, 5's not 0, Cliff.
I say minimal plugins. I said minimal plugins.
Minimal. All right. All right.
I bring in
NPM
awesome.
IntelliSense. Yeah, and the NPM packages. Those are pretty much all I use for JavaScript. Prettier, NPM, ESLint, and package bracket pair. I had to bring in the Azure stuff for a client. I could probably delete those soon.
There is
Client
a
hasn't
whole
messed with us in a while.
there is a whole entire ES6 React library plugin you bring in.
Probably now, but not when I started. So, and I'm fine with the stuff I
Yeah,
have
but I
now.
know it has like a lot of the extra lint and all that other stuff. It works.
Not important. Keep moving. You guys aren't getting that deep into React. Don't worry about it. Anyway.
Hey,
I'll
should
rename
the
tag.
C in the second counter be lowercase? Online.
No, because it is still, so again, this is still following the concept of classes. So React was originally a very object-oriented item, and so they see these as classes. So because the commons practice it, this doesn't need to be, but this is the practice that React does. So you're going to see this if you don't have it.
I thought you
Yeah.
put a lowercase there on the counter.js.
Nope.
Does it matter that
Kinda here.
yours is in double quotes and mine is showing in single quotes?
Nope. JavaScript doesn't care.
So since mine is lowercase, should it be lowercase?
If yours is, then yes, you have to match your file. Yep. The variable should be capitalized because React prefers capital letters for custom components. So the variable here should be capital C. This needs to be capital C. This may not be, but this needs to be, and this needs to be.
So how I've seen the file names. I see them going from JSX to JS. Does it really make a difference?
No, I just use JS.
It's
No,
like they both work the same.
yeah, and again, we're going to put a lot more JS. We're going to be putting JS into these as well as JSX. And again, we have Babel, so it doesn't really matter. I've never seen a benefit from using JSX, so I don't use it. Anyway, it might be needed for certain packages to recognize that they want to give you JSX support. That's what I would probably recommend for that. Packages might require the JSX extension to do IntelliSense for you on that, or predictive typing. Anyway, for this, now that we brought it in, we're just going to go ahead and use it, and we use our components like a tag. Now for this one, we don't have anything that we're going to be putting in between this. We will mention that a little bit in one of these where we have child and there's something called props.children. Don't worry about that right now. Because this is a self-containing tag that there are not going to be any children inside of this component, we're just going to do counter. We're going to self-close that tag like we do in HTML. It's like an image tag. You can just close it immediately. We don't need the opposite tag.
I don't know if I've ever done that before.
Oh, cool. Well, now you do. Yeah, these are self-closing tags. Your image tags can self-close.
Interesting.
Yep.
Is that only on React?
What's that?
Is that only on React?
No, you can do an image tag in HTML and close it by itself.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know that. I knew about React, but no otherwise.
It seems like a lot of them though. I think like paragraph you can, there seems like a lot of them, but I don't think div.
No, you can't really do paragraph because you need to be able to put stuff in between the two tags. Only if there's nothing in between the tags can you self-close. So you can actually do a self-closing div if you want just a div as a spacer. So spacer,
Yeah.
you already know, everyone knows this tag, right? BR/1, the line break.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the most common ones that can self-close. Yeah, that's only the most commonly close. So yeah, you can use you can create a div tag that self-closes, so it can be a spacer, for example, or a horizontal line. So yeah, as long as there's nothing in between the opening and closing tag, that can be a self-closing tag. That's the rule for it. From what I understand, pretty much any tag can be self-closing. So technically you can close a p tag, but just would be weird to have a p tag then because a p tag is meant for text. All right, so we have counter, and we're going to just start with that. So let's just see what this does. So we're going to save the files, both of them. Actually, all three files. Yeah, both files. So save both files. Make sure you saved both files. Go back, and we see this is box 1. So far, so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to introduce you guys to an interesting one. I'm going to have you guys just follow me along with this. Well, maybe we'll see. Border card. Yeah, I'm going to use my border card. So we're going to bring in my border card. And this is going to be your first kind of crazy looking one.
Okay.
Common. New file. I'm going to try to keep some of the crazier stuff out because I have a coverable border card and I don't want to do that. Let's bring this one in. React. React. Border card. Oops, we'll do the parentheses because you guys feel more comfortable with that. And I did an error when I didn't mean to. Oh, not drag. Card. All right. Turn div. Now we want to add some styling to this one. All right. For this, we're going to use this thing, the indent here. So same kind of stuff you've been doing before with JavaScript and even Java. A lot of putting stuff on separate lines to keep things neat. So style. So we still use the same exact tag or property that we did in CSS and HTML. So style equals, but instead of giving it text like we would, so normally in HTML you would then do text, font size like this. And we do that. Instead of doing this, what we're actually going to do this time, we're going to give it a style object. And so we're going to use the first curly brackets here is to say, hey, we're about to give you JavaScript. So this is not an object yet. Note how it's not happy there. See how it's not happy? Because we're not in an object yet. We're actually we started the JavaScript injection. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And app.js, the first curly bracket right here, I got rid of that one, sorry, counter. This says we're about to put in JavaScript code. Right. So inside here, we need another curly bracket to start the object.
Wow, okay.
Just understand style, double bracket. That's all you need to remind yourself. Style, double bracket. All right. Over here, I'm going to do border. And the border tag takes 3 properties: the width, the line type, and then the color. 1 px, 1 pixel. You want a solid line. You can also do dashed if you want. And then just give it a color. I have a nice gray, a nice dark color I like, but not exactly black. We'll do 171717 is the one I like to use a lot. So this is how you do. What's that?
Is this CSS?
Yes.
Okay.
It's CSS X, I guess you could say, because again, it's not exact. We don't have the semicolon here, and the next one you're going to see is a little different.
No, it's an inline.
This is inline
CSS.
styling. Yes, this is inline CSS, but again, still different from actual CSS because normally, if you wanted to do the border radius, so you have nice curved corners, you would type this border dash radius, right? In CSS. JavaScript doesn't recognize that. That looks like border minus radius.
Right.
You would do border radius. So any CSS items that have a dash, you would just convert them to the JavaScript camel case or Pascal case system. So font size would be font dash size would be font capital S size. So almost every single CSS attribute you know of, there's a JavaScript object equivalent, which is just remove the dashes and capitalize the letter. All right. So if the more JavaScript, the more CSS you know, you already know the JavaScript the React.js variation of it. This, we're going to put the number 5 in. That's a nice number for a nice little slightly rounded. We're also going to get a nice margin. 1px. That'll be the whole area around it. Padding. Do another 10 as well. Now this one we want to do a little more dynamicism. We're going to do width. And width is one of those ones you want to avoid px a lot of times. Max width or min width, it's okay to use pixel measurements and stuff like that or things like that. But width, you should 9 times out of 10 use a percentage or a view width or view height or something like that. I like to use percentage here. So we'll say 80% of the screen of the width should be taken up. And a max width is pretty nice sometimes, or a min width. So for this, again, I'm going to use what I have in my system because I liked what it did. You don't want it too wide. 500. That's, again, in pixels. So but I will to show that you can do 10px in a string, or you can just do the number itself, and that'll default to pixel. Yes, yes. Last thing I like to do, background color. What color do we want to use? I'll let you guys have fun with this one.
Sky blue.
What's that?
Sky blue pink.
Nope.
Nah.
Don't.
I always go black with
Okay,
yellow text.
Again, professional.
Oh,
Black with
well,
yellow text.
Yeah, that's pretty professional.
Yellow text is not nice. Yellow text is black. You guys are evil.
Purple background, yellow text. Come on.
Evil, he says.
All right.
Yellow
This needs to
background,
be-
white text. Mm.
To remind you guys, this is gonna
Blue
this is what you
background,
have to look
brown
at.
text.
Gray.
Oh, brown would be a good one.
Oh geez. To remind you guys, this is something you have to look at for a while, potentially.
So then black background, white text. Then,
I'm okay with blue. I'll go the blue
Oh, all
background
right.
at least.
All right.
So blue background I'm fine with. And again, this is a component I want to give to you guys for your personal projects, by the way. This is one of the common components that I'm going to give you guys for your projects. And this is one of those common things you see nowadays. This is what you like to call a card on a website. And it even, you're going to see something really nice with it. Last item, box shadow. That it hovers. This is a nice hovering card, which most modern websites nowadays have. So
The color on the chat is very good for background. It's
What's
like
that?
grayish.
yes,
I
I usually
posted-
use F7, F7, F7. So it's white, but not full white. You never want to use all. You never want to use all F or all 0 because they're very, very sharp. What did you put?
That,
What did you put?
EBEEEE is the same one that
Yeah, that's a
Amazon
nice one.
uses.
Yeah. Ah, copying Amazon. We'll use the blue for now. We might use that and later on we might switch to it. But I want people to really see that this thing's there, and then we may switch it. But we'll make it nice and very obvious to start. Okay. And
You just leave it there for 2 seconds. I'm just catching up with you.
no worries. I was gonna stop here. So. All right. So again, you can look up exactly what each of these positions are. You can play with them to see how they change your box shadow. So feel free to play with these a bit and move them around. What I will also be giving you guys when I give you my common folder after the weekend, I'm going to have a version of this that is hoverable. So when you move your mouse over it, it'll actually lift off the page a little extra. So that'll be a nice little addition for you guys to have. So you'll have that as well that you can use that has a nice transition effect. Yep. I did a good amount with React. So, and again, since you guys aren't being React developers, I want to give you guys some nice useful items that you can use to make your site decent without a ton of hours. Because that's not really what we're trying to go for here. You're not really trying to become front-end
CSS is the
developers.
thing that I waste most of the time.
Exactly. And then I'm willing to give you guys what I have that I wasted my time on, so that you guys don't have to waste your time on that and focus more on the app, on the project itself. I want you guys to focus more on the project, less on the visuals. I care more about you guys working on the functionality, not what it looks like.
Sergio can have fun with the CSS though.
Hey, I was gonna say this is my waters, man.
You've been waiting for this day since February.
CSS
Jeez.
styling, you know, it's still there.
All right.
Wow.
There we go. We have that in there.
Sergio joined up career devs like 4 years too late. If it was in Reese's class, he'd be in heaven.
There you go. Next thing I'm going to do is do this in here. So since this is an item that's a container, so this is a container component. This component is going to contain other components inside of it. And how we tell it to render those child components that are going to be dynamic. We want to be able to use this with anything. Now we could of course put the child component in there. We could always bring counter in here and put it in here, but that means it's bound to that child component. If we want to be able to put anything we want into this border card, we can use props dot children. We're familiar with that term, children. Parent-child relationships are very common in computer science. And so these are any tags that are inside of the two component tags. So when we use border card, the opening tag, and border card, the closing tag, any components or tags in between the border tag, opening and closing tags are the children. And so now let's go see what that looks like by actually bringing this into our app and surrounding our counter with it. So over here in div, and our count and non-counter, sorry, over in app.js, let's back to the main area here. Make this over here, make it a little bigger. There we go. Oop, that may be too big.
Nah, I like no.
Wait, you're doing this style on JS, like a component just for the style?
What's that?
You're doing the style just like a component just for the style?
Yeah, because I'm not
see.
claiming to have this used by anyone else. Now, if I did see this was being used by other components, I could then extract it into a separate file, or I could bring it out. I could also, if I really wanted to clean up the class, I could do this. Card equals all this. No one has to copy this yet. Don't worry about it. I could do this instead. Styles. And so that way my component's a little smaller. So it shrinks my component a little bit down. The other reason why I might want to do this, I don't want to talk about this yet, but let's say I wanted to allow for custom, hold on, I'm going to touch base on that in a second. We're going to leave it like this for a second. You guys don't need to switch it over yet. Switch it over later, but there's a reason why I might want to do this. I'll show you that in a second. Anyway, first let's make this look. So back over here under the app.js now, what we're going to do now is going to wrap our counter in that new border card. So first let's import it though. Import border card. Very nice. That was quick. I'm good doing that. Card. Let it in. So that way our border card's inside. Make sure all your files are saved. Not showing.
Oh,
whoops. Hold on. Styles.card. My bad. So if you did do what I did, remember to do the styles.card, so we actually access the key that contains all the settings. This allows me to be able to add multiple styles into a single variable. So we just do styles.the style I want. Now that I do that, we see, ooh, I probably should have changed that to white. Actually, you know what, we're gonna do this.
Or black and yellow.
Light blue. There we go. That looks nice.
Can you go back to VS Code for a second, please?
Yep.
I'm getting an error and I'm not sure why.
Mine is hold on.
Anyone else is working?
Mine's working fine.
Cool, cool. All right, want to share your screen then?
Yeah, so I'm not seeing what I did wrong.
File problems.
Hmm.
Module has no exports.
Let's see. Oh, you probably have your, so this most likely says you did not export it. So go back to border card. Oh, no, you did. Return. Hold on. It's saved. Saved.
Oh, I didn't export def. I didn't do that.
Mine just isn't displaying anything.
We'll check that in a second. So save it again. Make sure we're saved. Oh. It was saved. Okay.
Okay, mine is working now.
Module build failed. Syntax error.
Oh, wait.
Determine JSX command.
Go back. Wait. No. That's...
Go back to border card for a second. Div props.children style.
Oh.
Looks fine. Dang it. There's something like this. Probably just a small little friggin' character somewhere. Love when that happens. Let's see, return so border
Unterminated JSX content from app.
Yeah.
Terminated.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find. I was looking for a tag that's not closed. So a tag that's open but then not closed. He has
The
div,
border card,
div, border
the
card open.
slash.
Oh, the slash is in the wrong spot.
Oh,
yes. So that's a self-closing. Your line 13 border card is a self-closing one. So it's actually starting a new tag. And so your line 11 one isn't closed. If it's not self-closing, the slash goes at the left.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Look at the divs. Look at the two divs.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Queen.
counter is self-closing. That's why it's at the right. So it's an open tag with no closing tag. That's why it's on the right. A closing tag that is closing a tag that doesn't have a slash is on the left. That's the difference between the two.
Okay, so
I knew it was something small like that.
Yeah. Self-closing goes on the passenger
right
side,
Yeah.
and the normal ones go on the driver's side.
Yeah.
Okay. I need some other spatial relation thing because of dyslexia.
Yeah. No worries. All right, someone else.
And make that box light blue because that hard blue is awful.
Yeah, go back.
Awful.
Yeah, just go type light blue in the background color.
Sergio, the art critic.
Turn it to black.
All right, so what do you have going on?
It's just coming up as just white.
Oh, fun. All right, let's go to your code quick. We got border card and counter are not saved. See the little dot next to at the very end of each tab? See how it's a dot? If you see a dot, it's not saved.
The fun thing with
I forgot
Oh,
about
I have
that.
to save while I open it.
What's that?
So yeah, when you save, you have to have the file selected that you're saving.
Yes.
Oh,
It doesn't save everything that you've done when you just hit
No.
Control S.
But there is a
Save.
save all. You could just do control. There is a file save all, so you can just like save all of them that are open. You just do one swipe and just
Probably
go.
like Control Shift S or something.
Find those
There's
things on
also-
your own time. Find your things on.
Yep.
Find those
Yeah.
shortcuts on your own time right now, because we're already getting really late. I want to make sure we focus on the actual code right now, not on shortcuts and stuff.
There is
That's a bit
also an
more
auto
focused.
save thing.
Yeah.
that you
Again,
can
I forgot
on your own
that.
time. Share that in
But
Slack.
yeah,
Not right now.
Though. Your border,
yeah, just
Border
mentioning
card.
it.
Yeah, border card has an error.
yeah, because of capital. No.
Your-
Scroll all the way
your
down. He forgot his
export-
export. Yeah,
That's-
read what it
Oh,
says.
yep.
Export
That would do it.
default was not found. It literally says on that line, export default was not found. Someone else.
And you have to do it outside the curly brace, by the way.
Did you add it? You stopped sharing before we got to see if it actually worked.
yeah, it worked.
Okay, you added
Yeah, it
the
worked.
export. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have an error? Let's do this. Let's get them
That
all
wouldn't do
covered.
it.
It's not displaying anything for me.
All right. Let's see. Border config, counter. This looks fine. That looks fine. All right. Let's go to counter quick. All right. That looks fine. Let's go to app. That looks correct. So let's go to the browser. I can't see it. You only shared the one screen.
One moment, please.
No worries.
Did you save all the pages separately?
Yeah.
He has no dots, so they are marked as saved.
Go back to your border. So you can open, close, open, close. No, your divs are
Oh yeah, your div styles. You have the arrow
Yeah.
too early.
The style goes in between the closing of the
He's right. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
the angle
weird.
bracket.
or the arrow, the alligator mouth.
Yeah.
Annotate
Yeah, the angle bracket.
this thing over here on the
after
right side of the
yeah.
div.
So
Yeah.
after
Well,
the V in div
yeah.
is where you put all the style code.
Oh,
Before the
Yeah, move that after the curly bracket on line 21. So just delete that one, delete the last one, and then on line 21, add it there. And I wouldn't add it there because that doesn't look right. So move that to another line quick. There you go. And then unindent one more time. Do one unindent. There you go. That way it lines up with the div.
Beautiful.
There you go.
And say,
Try that.
I see
There it
it.
is.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Speed
Oh,
run
never mind.
troubleshooting.
Well, I'm expecting a lot of this in here. So it's props
Same
dot
problem.
children.
Same problem,
Oh,
Jeff.
props. That's what it is.
That too, yeah. So it's props
The
dot
same
children
issue that
and the
they
same
just
thing
had.
with the bracket. Yeah, that is true. So line 6, you're opening your little alligator bracket, your angle bracket at the end of the div. That belongs on line 16.
Oh,
Yep, styles go inside the tag because it needs to be inside the tag that it's affecting. So to it there, but then yeah, enter, backspace, close tag, close bracket, or close angle bracket. There we go. And then indent your props.children because it's a child of the div. So props.children should be indented by 1. My goal here also is to also teach you guys good, proper indentation as well. Which for the record, then also technically lines 8 through 15 should also be indented because they are nested in the style brackets. So 8 to 16, 8 to 15, nope, only one indent, only one indent. Yeah, remember, highlight multiple lines at a time.
oh,
Not do it one by one.
That's why it did it.
Hold down shift, yeah. Hold down shift and highlight them all, then tab once. There you go. That is your correct indentation stuff. For those of you, by the way, who had their curly bracket on the second line, that's fine. But also understand that if you're doing a single object, you can do it this little shortcut so you don't get as indented. So Matt, for example, I think it might have been, I don't remember who the previous one was, but yeah, this, if you want to do this with your double curly bracket, if you have a single item inside of the style, you can do the 2 curly brackets in the same line, the 2 closing brackets in the same line. If you want to reduce your indentation, but what you have is not bad either. It's not wrong, just both are allowed.
One more
Yeah, I
time,
don't know
how do you indent all at the same time? You select them all and then hit what?
Highlight them all. You can do the tab for indentation. You can also do, I think the
just tab.
control,
Okay.
the control curly brackets also will do it too. Command curly bracket for Mac.
Oh.
It does not see the counter. So let's go back. Code. Counter is counter. Yeah, counter's inside. No, I don't think counter's inside the folder. I'm looking at border card inside a comment. It looks more indented. So drag counter into counter. Yep, move. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Simple one, but yeah, that was it. I was like, wait, those don't look right. Border card and counter don't look identical. Go back to the browser now. This one you might have, yeah, there it is. Woo!
Okay.
Right,
That is a
next.
lot of tabs.
I was gonna say, holy lord of the tabs.
Jeez.
Processor's gonna go on strike if you keep that up.
Yeah, I think it's the memory more like, right? The RAM.
RAM gone.
Sorry, Arnell's worse.
Download, it's okay, you can download more RAM.
It doesn't matter. Again, Arnell's worse. I can still see some letters
I'm
in
not
his
gonna say
tabs.
how many gigs of RAMs I have.
Anybody else?
I'm still waiting for my to start, so I don't know if I have issues or not.
Do you mind if we keep moving forward a little bit while you keep it going, or?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I'm just checking. As soon as you get it working and you see a problem, let me know.
Yeah.
So. All right. Back to our system here. Where'd my code go?
Is there no
I moved it so I
one
could
else?
compare. All right. All right. Next thing I want to do quick, just to showcase something nice, is I don't know about you, but I kind of don't like it over here on the left. Do you?
No, I'd prefer it somewhere else.
Probably in the center, right?
Yeah, that would be
We like
more
things centered,
aesthetically
right?
pleasing.
Yeah, we'd like things more centered, especially on wide monitors. And so I'm going to do some basic introductions as well, and we're going to see more of it as we go to Flexbox. So this is going to give you guys some, what is called some mobile friendliness, mobile first design with very little effort and not having to learn something like Bootstrap or Materialize or anything like that. Can you use those? Yes. Will I be teaching them? No, there's not enough time. So if you want to use Bootstrap or Materialize, you can, but understand that you need to learn how to do them yourself, unfortunately. Again, I'm giving you a very basic crash course on React. So, and most of what you're going to be learning, though, is through osmosis and through trial and error. But I will be here to support if you need it. So if there's something that's not working, it's not looking right, post it on Slack, meet up with a classmate, working it together. Also, I want to make sure everybody sees. Nope, not that. Here we go. Now,
Materialize is fun. I've actually used it before.
everyone must understand this. This is how CSS tends to work a lot of times. It is very, very accurate. It is very much trial and error, and a lot of times the more you mess with it, the worse it gets until you finally just try again and then you'll get it. So don't get frustrated when your CSS doesn't work right. It will be a pain. It can be a hassle time, and a lot of times, again, and 100% can just be trial and error. Jesus Christ, I'm just seeing a lot of.
I'm all about the Pikachu face though.
I'm just looking at all the others now. I'm like, yep, this seems right.
I gotta show these to my dad.
I've dealt with every single one of these like issues.
So,
I'm having flashbacks from college.
So yeah, and yeah, one does not simply mess with CSS. So, oh, I want that mug. But anybody who's messed with CSS understands this completely. Flexbox, I will say, does help reduce this. So Flexbox will help to reduce this because it tends to help with binding things to elements and allows the container to be more dynamic to the content.
X to doubt.
What's that?
Still expect to waste a lot of time on it.
Press X to doubt me.
Oh yeah, you can. So
oh yeah, that's a good that's a good meme. Ooh.
So I will say, understand that if you're struggling with the CSS, that is normal. Get some assistance. Get somebody else to look at it. All right. What did I do with my? Where did Visual Studio Code go? What the hell?
Oh.
Did I move it over there? I don't remember moving that. Come back. Thank you. All right. Whatever. It's weird. All right. So next, we're going to do two things. We're first going to go ahead and introduce a basic concept of what is it? Flexbox. So again, let's go ahead with some style. All we're going to do here is do display, flex, and flex one. This is the basic systems, and that's Felix. This is the basic kind of container code right here. This tells it to start Flex and to take up all the space available to itself. All right. But this will not yet put anything in the center. So if I save it as is, we're going to look back and see still the same. Nothing's changed yet. The next thing I'm going to add is, and I always forget, it's either justify or align, and I always forget which one it is. We'll try both, and that's usually what I end up doing. I can never remember if it's justify or align, and I also think it has something to do with your flex direction. So a lot of times, add one at a time until one works. So that's what it is. So justify content, enter. Also, JavaScript does not care if you have an extra comma at the end. Just be aware of that. Hey, it worked the time.
I think align is for text and justify is for objects like.
But again, I think if you do flex direction column or row, it changes it.
Oh, okay.
So just be aware of that. That's why I always say try one. If it doesn't work, try the other. And the other one's align items. But take a look at that. Instantly centered. If anyone's ever worked with CSS before, centering something horizontally and vertically is a nightmare, right?
Mm-hmm.
So ready for the next thing? Since justify content centered horizontally, for us, align items is going to do the other axis. I do align item center. Nope, it's not going to do it for me. Watch me look like a liar. Of course. Oh wait, I didn't take up the entire height. That's why. Yeah.
You
height.
gotta save it too.
Did I not save? But I did.
Well, maybe not. I think you did. Yeah, you did.
I did. Yeah, if I just a good thing. I cannot stress enough inspecting things and looking at the highlight that shows up. So this is showing me, yeah, it is centered within the height of the container. So I'm not taking up the full height. And so one thing I like to always add to my border, or one thing I like to do with index.css on body here, I do min height 100 view height. This is 100% of the view. Yep. And so this says that the screen should always minimally, the body should minimally take up the 100% of the view height, whatever you're viewing on, whether it's a mobile phone, a computer. VH is view height, VW is view width. This is the monitor's view height and view width, and the number is the percentage. So this is 100. This stands for 100% of the view height. I'll say that. Again, that doesn't change everything, but this does tell the body to take up everything. So now I can tell everything else too. So let's do the same thing for app though. Same thing on app as well. Min height. And again, on this, if you ever want to add a number that has letters in JavaScript, you have to add the quotes. This is a string now. 100 view height is not recognizable by JavaScript. So even though on the CSS, we were able to do 100 VH alone, JavaScript doesn't recognize that. So just be aware of that. CSS versus JavaScript. Be aware where you're typing and what you're typing. So height, and again, there. Look at that.
Wow.
2 lines and you get beautiful horizontal and vertical centering. I can tell you, for developers, this was one of the most nightmarish things to have to try to figure out in CSS, centering something both horizontally and vertically. Flexbox has made that easier now. So we got the first thing there. Next thing I want to do is introduce, let's see, there's 2 things I want to do. So you know what I want to do first? I want to do state first, and then next week we'll do listing or repetition. So now I want to introduce you to something called state. So again, I mentioned state is the data coordinated with a component. So a component can store data of its own, and that data can also be managed by itself or any child components. So I do want to make sure it's very, very clear. Any component has state. Child components can see it because the parent component can pass a reference to that state down the chain. I can pass it on like a what's that race that you have a baton that you hand off? What is that called?
Baton.
Relay?
That's it, relay race. Thank Jesus Christ. Word just dropped from my head. Like, I know this. Where did it go? This is a common analogy I use. What happened? So like a relay race, yes, the parent can hand down the baton to the children down the line so that that state can go down. And then, of course, any changes can be passed up the chain to the parent, say, hey, I want to change this data. And just again, to clarify, what you send down is, yes, you send down the value and you send down a method to change it. It's still the parent that is the one that's in charge of maintaining and storing the data, but the children can see what it is and can change it by using the changer. Only though if the parent passed the ability to change it. So, and you're gonna see what I mean by that in a second. But this box right here, we wanna have this number be a dynamic number. And every time we click the box, we want to increase that number by 1 and have it show that new number. Just pop back over to counter. Actually, I'm gonna go to border card for counter, because counter's storing it. Well, starting to think we might want border card to hold it, because counter, just so you can understand for a second, if we go in here, and see the blue box right now? Mm-hmm. If we put an on-click function on the counter, that blue box is the clickable area. So everywhere around it, I can't click on to trigger the on-click. If I want the whole box to be the on-click, that means the border card has to be the clicker. Make sense? Mm-hmm. All right. So we're actually going to, for this moment, allow border card to track the number, and we're going to pass that number into counter. All right. Mm-hmm. So let's go to border card. Let's do, and again, this one you're going to get I'm going to give you guys a newer version of this later, which is cleaned up. It doesn't have any of this stuff in it. This is just for understanding state. We're actually going to remove this later, so it doesn't matter. So const count equals 1. And now how do I send data to a child? No, I can't do it with props.children though. All right, I'm making more changes. You know, actually, let's do this. We're gonna do this quick. We're gonna copy this. We'll use this for temporary use. Let's copy. We're gonna paste that item. I'm gonna go ahead and call this counter card. This is gonna import counter card, counter. Good. And this is then gonna actually put counter right here. I also need to import that. Oh no, I did. Yeah. So import counter for that, and then close it. There we go. And oh yeah, the export default, change that to counter card as well. Now at least rename the file to counter card. So again, and I'll tell you again what everything we did. So counter card. So I copied the border card and repasted it. I renamed it to counter card. I changed the function to count the function name to counter card and the export to counter card. And I imported counter and changed props.counter to counter. All right.
What's the styles.card online?
Oh, I just pulled that here.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
Yours
to
is
showcase
never mind then. Never mind.
Yeah.
I forgot that you
Don't worry
did
about it
that.
for now. We'll do that later. Again, I might show that in a bit. But we have that.
Okay.
And then we're just going to go quickly over here to app.js and change this to counter card now. So card. And nice little trick on Visual Studio Code that I really wish well, I guess, again, so in Visual Studio Code does have a refactor-like capability, but not the way that IntelliJ does. For Visual Studio Code on Mac, if I do Command D, that wasn't D, that was a different thing. And D, it will create multiple cursors on the same item that I just highlighted. So I highlighted border card, did Command D, and it automatically highlighted the other one version of it, but it always puts it at the end. I forgot about that. See, now I have both, so then I can edit both at the same time.
I think you can do F2 as well.
Probably, but I don't know that one. So try that, and then especially for the Windows users, because I don't know the shortcut for Windows. It could be Control D, but I don't know. But yeah, Mac is Command D.
Yeah, it looks like Control D. Works.
Yay. Good. All right, cool. So just a sanity check. Let's save all the files and make sure that this actually works, that we still have the same behavior. We do. Okay, good. So everything looks the same still.
I'm just watching. I'll do this after.
All right. Yeah, we're unfortunately just getting low on time, and I want to finish this last bit here.
I can't import counter card.
You have it under common counter card, the name of the file, and the const counter card and export default counter card, right?
Oh, I have to change the export.
There you go. Knew it was gonna be one of those. That's what I wanted to check. But if it wasn't one of those, we would then share screen.
Counter card. Okay, there it is.
Good. Okay. So now we have that. So counter card, let's give it the counter variable. So we're gonna do count equals 1 to start. We're not using state yet, just so you know. And how we send data to a child component is, so you guys have been seeing this thing, props all the time, right? I've been putting that, even though we haven't been using it yet, except for the props.children. That is a variable that is a part of every single component. Whenever we have a component here, that's included at all times. And we can also give it information as well. So we can do props equals, and we can give it information. And so here I'm going to do count. We'll check something quick. Make sure I remember how I do that again.
Plus.
No, I don't want to do that. That's going to be an on click.
Oh.
I'll check something quick. It's props. Let's see. Oh, that's not how I do it. Right? No. I was like, that feels wrong. That's not right. What you do actually is, so this is a prop, right? Whenever you create a element inside of a tag, they're props, right? This is the class name prop. This is the style prop, right? That's where the term comes from. So if I want to send a item down through props, I could just name something, equal it to something. So here I'm going to do counter count equals count. And now my props object in the counter component has a count key. So the props object in counter now has this here. So now let's go back to counter for a second. And instead of using num here, I'm going to do props count instead. Save both files. And make sure, and you know what, for the second, put count as 2, just so you know that it changed. Or some other number. Just make count on counter card something different than the number in counter. So that way you know it's using the counter card count and not num.
Can you go back to count for the counter for a second?
Counter's on the left.
Oh, counter is on the left. Okay.
Yep. Props.count now.
Oh, okay. We put that in there. I see.
Yep.
My box
Like
is
I
empty
said,
now.
I recommend doing count as something other than 1 so that you can see that it changed. So I have count 24 right now under the counter card.
Recommend 666.
No. All right.
You can, hold. Mine's not working.
All right, I was about to say I can start doing the chain of share screens people need.
Yeah, I got lost.
Go for it. I have a chat window that I missed. I wonder if this because I
I feel like I'm getting lost a little too.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So counter looks fine. That's fine. Go over to your counter card. All right. Count. I would so line 5, 1 indent it, and then also change count to something different so that we know if it changed over.
It's so you have counter props equals count instead of count equals count. So you're setting.
Oh right.
props
I sorry.
equal
I
to it.
changed that. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh.
I changed that. It's count equals count. I knew I was typing something wrong. I goofed myself.
He's got border cards still not defined.
What?
Hold on, scroll down a little bit. Border card not defined. I don't know what you're saying. Go to app.js for a second.
Yeah.
Where?
App.js.
Oh yeah.
Just
I
still
have to
using
change
border.
this
Yeah.
here.
You want to use counter card. And also, I forgot to say, by the way, counter card should now self-close and line 21s and 22 can be commented out. I should do that on mine as well. So we're not using those anymore. We're using counter card. So
just all
line
here?
19 and 20, comment those out and put and counter card should be self-closing.
Line. What line?
Let me look at yours. 21 and 22
Oh,
can be
okay.
commented out.
Yep.
Those two, because we're not needing those anymore. Technically, it won't load that line 21 because we aren't using the props.children command, but we're not using them, so might as well comment them out.
And
Yeah, head over to your browser and you see box number 2.
And it did
So you're
change.
using it.
Okay.
Yep. Got it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I feel like I missed something, and I did have an error when I finally ran my server.
Want to share your screen?
Yeah.
How's everyone else holding up? Travis, Keith, anybody else? Jeremy, everybody, anybody else having issues? Freddie, Travis, Connor, Evan, Emilio, Manny, anybody?
I
Guys
didn't
doing good?
do mine. I'm just gonna
Are you
rewatch this part in the video. So
Are you exporting
fine.
a counter card?
Huh?
Oh, wait, what? Your
Go to
counter
counter
card
card,
is
hold on.
gutted.
Yeah, I'm a little all over the place. I tried to follow.
Oh,
with,
so when we made counter card, we just copied over everything from border card.
Yeah.
We remade essentially just border card.
So, yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Copy everything in border card.
Does this looks clean though?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we'll walk you through the changes because the changes are very minimal. So comment that,
Yeah.
copy everything, paste everything in there. At the top, redo that import counter. So under import React, do import counter again. Good. Yep, line 4, enter and do counter equals const counter equal 1. So at the
Underline
end-
4.
Yeah, under line 4, const counter equals 1. That was correct. Good. Yep, the 1. And then scroll down a bit. Right there on line 21, we want to do counter, so the tag counter. So get rid of the props children. Yeah, delete line 21 and the curly brackets. So again, we're going to use a component here, so that's going to be in the tag format. No, hold on. We're going to bring in the counter component that we use, remember?
Oh, okay. That's right.
Not quite.
How is that written? I'm
That's
sorry.
a tag. It's a tag.
Oh, gotcha. Right.
Capital C.
Just trying to.
No worries. Practice makes it perfect. Yep.
Yeah.
Capital C. And then after counter, you're going to do space count equals count. And the second count is inside of curly brackets. Also,
Right,
no
that's what
space.
it was.
No space after that count because this is JSX. You can't put a space there. Yep,
Okay.
there it is. And the last two things you need to do is the two spots you see border card, make them counter card.
Yep.
So I missed a part. So on counter card, we do not want props children.
Not anymore. Nope.
Okay. I did leave it in there, even though it didn't break anything. But
Yeah, it didn't won't, but yeah. Good. So that's that. So now let's go to your app.js. You have it imported. Good. Now scroll down. Let's make sure. We want to do line 22 and 23. Let's comment those out. We actually don't need line 23 as counter card. So because counter card is now self-containing. Yeah, you can delete all three of those if you want. Yeah, or comment. That works actually. Yeah. But now on line 20, on line 20, bring in counter card as a self-closing tag. So you remember how to do that. Beautiful. Make sure everything's saved. And let's go look. Oh, also, just for the fun, just to make sure it works, on counter card, make that line 5 as something other than 1, so we know it's using counter and not num from counter. Which, yeah, I didn't even check to see if your counter was updated, but let's see. Let's see what's happening. So pull up your browser. Refresh. Why is it trying to do kind of border card still?
Hey, look. I need to clean this. Yeah, sorry, hang on.
No worries.
This idea is not as good as I thought it was going to be.
What was? Oh, the side by side.
Yeah.
All good. You can close the index.css. We're not using it anymore.
Gotcha.
All right. So everything's saved, right? Yeah, everything's saved. I don't see, it doesn't show the error down below though. That's weird. Hold on. So export default border card. That looks fine. Go back to app.js. Just for the fun of it. Everyone else has been doing Windows. You've been able to do the dot
word
widgets, right?
common in there instead of counter.
What was that?
I think it might be the way that you have the imports. I think common, that should be a capital C.
Yeah.
Oh, you did a capital C. Yeah, you did a capital C on yours. So yes, you need a capital C there. Yeah, I did common as small because my common is not a component. It is a folder of components. The counter folder is capitalized because it has a counter component in it, which yours doesn't actually do. That's why your counter is not finding. I just noticed, yeah, your counter is not inside a counter. Everything's inside a. Your folders are also a little messed up, by the way. Yeah. Geez. I don't think what I can do. Drag
counter card. In
yeah. Hold on, Freddie. Yeah, that's why it's not working. Drag common to source. Yep. Let go. Move. Now drag counter into components counter. No. Hold. Stop.
Yep.
Drag the counter JS to counter.
Oh, I see.
Yes. There you go. Oh, is that already in there? That is in there. We'll leave it there for now, but actually right click on components, do new folder, just the button. I don't know. Yeah, that works fine. Now drag common to components. There we go.
That's
okay.
All right. Yeah.
We're getting there.
I think he also needs to put counter card into counter.
No, we had counter card in common for now.
Oh,
but he's importing it from counter. Statement. I see it. Yeah. I'm going to actually do what I'm going to have him do what we did though. So on your import statement for counter card, it should be components common counter card because I wanted to match me. Otherwise, he'll run into problems later. All right, so almost there now. What's that saying? Counter card, border card. That's not accurate. Oh, I think we're not down to the bottom. Yeah, go check the browser now. Actually, no, there's still an error. Hold on. Counter.js. Go back to your
Probably need to check all
count
this.
is not defined. Okay, hold on. Yeah, let's go to
I think
counter.js.
you might have called it counter instead of count.
Yeah. Yep, go there.
Yeah, he named it counter, I believe.
Counter.
What's with the styles thing?
No, not that.
I was trying to follow, and I think I saw counter card and mix it up.
Yeah, counter. All it was inside of the divs was just a P with like this is blocks and then the count.
That says style.
Yeah, just a P tag.
Yep.
That, yep. But now we're going to do, instead of num, we're going to do props.count. But then I need you to go back to counter card for a second.
Sure.
Yeah, you did counter on line 5. It's count.
Oh, gotcha.
There you go. That should be it. Let's try again. Almost.
Counter JS.
Yeah, a function error.
Components, common.
Function app.
Hold on. Scroll down. All the way down. Let's see what it says. I don't know. Dang it. Hold on. So what did that say again with the error message on the browser? It says error dot in counter card can't resolve counter. Okay, so go to counter card. I want to check the import statement. Yeah, that one thinking it's in the folder above. So we got to change that line too, the import. So what I would recommend, delete that line and redo the import because it's going to be faster.
I agree.
Yeah, import counter.
Lowercase I.
Yeah, lowercase I. Yep, good call. There you go. You hit the enter key again, so you got a nice space. Nope, not there. Oops, I didn't realize the cursor was there.
Oops.
Sorry. I thought the cursor was at the end of the line. There you go. Save. Back to the browser.
Okay.
Almost. We're close.
That's something.
Yeah, we just don't
It's
see
not giving you
the
any errors. It's not.
and no errors. We just don't have any content yet. So let's go back to the code now. Let's see why we're not getting content. So counter card looks fine. Let's go back to counter now. Counter has the P tag. It is saved. Good. Let's go back to app.js. We have counter card. That should have stuff. Just for the fun of the game, go back to counter card for a second. Let's check the style. Style's inside of the curly brackets. Good. It's inside of the angle brackets as well. Background color is blue. It's all there. Not seeing it yet. I don't see anything yet.
I wonder it might be some of the imports still because we've been swapping around folders because some of them I noticed
Oh,
grayed
hold on.
out.
Yeah, go back to counter. Oh, hold on. Counter card there. It looks fine. Go here. That's fine. Let's go to app.js.
These two.
That looks fine. Components, counts, counter,
I
components.
mean, just
common, border card.
redo your imports anyway.
Counter card.
Just in
I can
case.
just tell by looking at them, but yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Go ahead.
Wouldn't it show up,
Still.
wouldn't it show up as an error
True.
if the imports were wrong?
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it would tell us
Okay.
we can't resolve.
Well, you're
Hold on.
not.
Line 3.8. Counter is defined but never used in app.js. Really? Well, yeah, counter isn't. Border card
That,
isn't. Yep, that's
that
fine.
commented
Name
out
isn't
a little
used. Yeah.
bit?
This doesn't look too bad. Can you check the
Could
browser?
that be commented out or no?
Hold on. No, yeah, it's not there.
No, it's not there. It's not giving him any errors though.
Hold on, app.js for a second. Yeah, right here. No, that's fine. Min height, line items, justify content, flex. What are you asking, by the way? Is someone saying something?
Could those lines be commented out?
Lines 22, 23, 24. Yeah, that's fine because counter card has the content right now.
So that's probably with counter card then.
Yeah, let's go to counter card next.
I was wondering if he added the CSS height thing for.
He did.
All right.
Yeah. I
That's
saw
the only
it.
other thing that was changed.
Yeah.
Was the rest
Should
of
that have JS line number 2 there at the end? I don't have it on mine.
Not
But
needed,
JS.
but it won't cause a problem. So you
Right.
can put it, but you don't have to put it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, putting it doesn't do anything, but it's not required.
Good.
You don't have to put .js. Yeah, it's not a. It doesn't cause a problem.
Good to know.
Not seeing anything yet.
I feel like I might be missing something in the style declaration. Was there a card declaration somewhere in between the curly braces? I thought I saw that on somebody else's screen.
That was Cliff's like alternate thing. This should be working code. That's fine.
That tripped me up too.
Yeah.
I switched to Cliff's method, but yeah, it's fine the way it is.
Go back to the browser for a quick second for me.
Sure.
And inspect the source. Let's do right click inspect. Inspect.
At the very bottom.
Very, very bottom. Yeah. I want to see if any of the tags are showing up. So open up the body. Let's click on the arrow. Yeah. Not head. Careful. Body. All right. You're not getting anything to load. Not even app is loading. All right. Interesting. So div ID root. Let's go back.
Default stuff.
Yeah.
Go back
so that's
to
fine.
the
Go to
file.
app.js for a second. Yeah. Go back to app.js for a second. And right above border card, let's just add a p tag high. Troubleshooting. Above counter card.
Above
Counter card. Yep. A lot of, again, my main way of testing stuff is just to type things in and see if I get change. And the more basic, the better. No, yeah, there we go. And then just put high in between it. That works. Let's go back to the browser and see if we see that. Okay, we actually have something really bad happening. Okay. Interesting. Can you take a look at index.js for me for a second?
Sure.
Not CSS, JS. One right below that. That looks fine. All right. Huh.
Maybe restart it.
Yeah, reboot the server. Let's try that. So click in there, Control C.
Control C.
Up arrow, enter.
Hopefully this starts sooner than last time.
Oh wait, Tyler, yeah, I'm wondering if your website is just loading slow. We're over here thinking it's not working, and it might just be trying to load, and we're just moving too fast for it. I didn't think of that.
Oh, that would kill me.
So let's give it a second. Let me know if it pops up or not. This should work. Everything here looks valid. I don't see anything wrong with any of the code. So let's just give some time to reset. Let me know what you see. I just want to see if anyone else has any problems, and I just want to get the on click, and then I will spend a little extra time afterwards if you need to make sure yours works. All right. So let me show the last little bit so we can get everyone else going. I'm going to take over. I want to show the on click so we can finish up the last.
Yeah.
So I just want to do the last little bit, the on click, and then I'll spend another I'll spend up to another 30 minutes after class to help anybody get theirs working. So, all right. So we have on my system the number that we want showing. So now I'm going to introduce something called state, because this is not state. If I was to somehow edit this, React wouldn't notice this. React doesn't monitor variables. React monitors state. And so how we use state in React, at least modern React, is something called hooks. We use React hooks in order to do that. So just like we brought in fragment, we're going to bring in use state. There we go. Use state. I'm going to comment out line 8. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do use state. Oh, no, not that. Sorry. Const. And we're going to use something called a deconstruction syntax. Deconstruction will deconstruct out of a collection of a JavaScript collection into variables. Use state will return an array of 2 elements. Element 1 is the actual state, and element 2 is the updater function. Remember, arrays in JavaScript can contain dynamic elements. They don't have to be the same item. So element 1 in a JavaScript array can be an actual value of data, and element 2 in an array can be a function. Fancy, right? Go JavaScript. Why can't Java do that? And what we want to do though is we want to deconstruct those into 2 separate variables. And we don't have to keep accessing arrays. What we do is we can do an array syntax and do the name for the first item, counter or count. And the second one, in a very common syntax, is just do set and the same name. So set count. This is your common syntax you'll see. The state variable name, and then the set with the same name. And so what that says, yep, and then equal use state,
Oh,
and then we give it the default value. And so see here, this is what it's showing. It returns. It returns undefined, a variable, a value, and then something called a function called react.dispatch. So it's a function. So it returns an array. And so by doing this, we're saying, don't give me the array. The first element, store that in this variable called count. And the second item, that function, put inside of this variable. All right, so this variable is not a function. This variable is still a value. And so inside the parentheses here, though, what we're going to do is give it the default value of the state. So we're going to do 0 to begin. All right. And so by doing that, if we save right now, we go back to our code, we'll see that we're now, our block is now saying 0. All right. And now the last thing we want to do is to the counter, we want to give it an on-click capability.
Excuse me for a second.
Yep.
Is that you state that 0, is that setting the current state?
Yes, that's the default value. Sorry. Not setting the current state, it sets the initial, sorry, not default, initial value.
Oh, I put that in the wrong one.
Okay, so you could make a string in there. You could put Cliff in there, and it'll end up.
Yep, I can put a string. I can put a string. I can put a boolean. I can put an array. I can put a JavaScript object, whatever I want.
But
the
that
main
could be
thing
an outside source as well. I mean, that could be outside. That could be like a variable from another thing too. Okay.
It can, yes, but again, it's the initial value. If you put a variable here and that variable changes, it won't change this. Just be aware of that.
Yeah. But basically, you're setting your
the initial value of this variable. Yep,
Yeah,
you're setting the initial value for this.
All right.
And then anytime you want to change this, you must use set count. Do not do count equals because that will not trigger a render. And the last little thing I got to say, you always want to overwrite entirely what was here. So if you do use an array here or an object, you need to save a new version of that exact same object, a copy of the object. Do not just replace a single key or a single element in line, because React won't notice the change. It won't trigger a re-render. You always need to put a full new object so that the reference number changes. Remember, arrays are when you point to an array or point to an object, it's a reference. That's why we can do const array equals an array and const data obj equals an object. Because even though const says constant, we can change the content of array. The array's memory address doesn't change. And that's why if you use a lot of times you don't want to use complicated items here. You want to use a single item and just use multiple set states. So we can have multiple use states with multiple set items. That's more commonly what you want to do now. In the past, you would have one state with a bunch of fields, but that was a pain in the ass to maintain. Now you're just going to use a single element with a single constructor in most cases. Not always, though. We will cover one example where we are going to use an object, and that's going to be for authentication. But we'll get to that next week. So set state, we have that. Now what we're going to do is we have this is set to that. And the last thing that I'm going to do is going to add a add count to the div. So we want the whole div of the counter card to be clickable. If we put it on here, I showed you that just the text would be clickable. That p tag would be clickable. In this case, we want the whole counter card to be clickable to change the number. And how we do that is we use the same command from HTML called onClick, but we get to type it the way I like it, which is onClick with a capital C finally.
Oh, yay.
Yes, we finally get to type it the way it's meant to be, and not how HTML has it as all small. It always pissed me off. So here, this is going to accept a function. And in this case, we're just going to do curly parentheses, meaning we have no parameters. And we're just going to do set count plus. Oh no, not plus, not like that. Like that. Increment, then use. So we wanted to add 1 to it, then send the new number to set count.
Right.
If we do count plus plus, it will give us the old number 0, then increment it, and so it'll be delayed by 1. So we increment, then give it, and that way it'll update. And so what this is going to do is this is going to update our count. This is going to trigger a re-render. React will update the virtual DOM, see, hey, that number changed, and it's only going to change the number. It will actually not re-render the text. It's only going to re-render the number. So you're going to see very little fluctuation in your website. So we'll make sure we're saved. App is saved. I don't know why my app is not saved, but we'll do it anyway.
It's not working, and
I got an error message. How do I have an error message? Assignment to constant variable.
Oh, do we have to make that?
I was gonna say, were you gonna do something
let?
inside?
No, I don't think so. Wait, did
Were
I
you gonna do
that?
something inside the counter?
Event for that though?
I'm not changing. Oh, wait, I'm dumb. Count plus one. We actually don't want to change count because we're changing count with the set. So again, you never, that's why we make this const, because we never want to do count equals. We only want to change count by using the method. Right. That was me being dumb. My bad. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
so set count plus one, that will trigger the re-render, trigger the rerun. It actually reruns the whole method on the back end. So what actually happens, what React does is actually React will rerun all of the code here, or kind of look through all the code, run it on the virtual DOM, check for the changes, and then update on the actual DOM the changes it sees.
Can you save that for a second, Cliff?
Yeah, hold on, saving.
Oh, mine mine gave me an error.
Oh, that's cool. So you can just use on-click now. You don't have to like create the. You have to generate the event and generate like other like the
Nope.
kind of class style anymore.
Not necessarily. Again, use event is different now. Use event is on render. So we'll talk about use event next week. But
can
you can just use it on click and it just like made the thing click and stuff. That's
again,
cool.
as long as you do a change state method of a set item, that triggers the re-render. Now go ahead, Matt. I'm going to stop so you can show, and then that's really it for today. So now I'm going to go through and do some error checking for people. Go ahead, Matt.
Yep.
All right. Got it. What's the error?
The set count. You forgot the set count.
Oh yeah, set count on click. Count plus one is a function though. Set count plus one.
I'm sorry. Could you say that again, please?
Yes, on the on-click, you want to run the function set count and give it count plus one.
Shouldn't you do parentheses around the on-click?
So
Or
next to the arrow.
So after the arrow, put
okay,
in set count and replace those curly braces with parentheses.
okay.
Yeah, buddy.
There it is. Yep. So we're calling the function set count and giving it the new value of count, which is count plus one.
Aha.
And you still haven't changed.
And you haven't changed the blue.
I don't care what it looks like. I care about what it runs like.
I like it.
Hey man, that's
you should have just made it black there. Should have just made it black, Matt. You wouldn't have to worry about it.
You still having the big box issue?
What the hell? I saw it. I've already seen it.
His box is big for some reason.
Wow. Let's inspect it. So I'm going to show you guys another cool tool that you want to use for CSS debugging. So we're going to click. We're going to look down below and see which one of these. We can see what elements or what attributes are affecting it. And so you can see we have max width, padding, margin, border, radius, border, and box shadow, which is all fine. But now if you go to click on what is it, computed? So look up a little bit right there. We scroll down. We want to look for height. It's alphabetical, by the way. So H.
Yeah.
Down more. Wait, why isn't it giving me height?
Yeah, height. There you go. It's right there.
All right. Can you click on app for a second? Oh no, not app. Sorry. Open up div. Sorry. So expand the div element.
Where?
Not that one. That's already expanded.
Selected. The one you have
Yeah,
selected.
the one you have selected. The one that's not expanded.
The arrow that's pointing to the right.
Yeah.
There's another div inside of it. Why is there a div inside of it? But yeah, let's click on, let's see that div. So that's small. Okay, that's small. And that's small. So
And
it
that's the
is
text.
that one that's doing it. All right, that's fine. Well, I can already tell that these aren't causing your other box to be large because you can see the highlighting inside. So this one is actually giving itself its height. This is actually the one doing it. Why? That's the question. So go to styles on the bottom there. Another little trick we can do, by the way, is we can disable some of these to see if any of these elements here are affecting it. So we can disable some and see if any of these will shrink it.
Oh.
No, that's fine. It's good thing the
That's
same. You're
normal
good.
stuff.
You can actually change these too to see how it operates
fine.
in here. You
Max
can, like,
will.
incorporate it in too.
Background. What the hell? Why are you having issues? App?
Hold on.
What the hell?
Is it?
That's weird.
It couldn't have been anything in the index.css, right?
I don't
That's what I
think
was thinking.
so, but we can go look.
If you go back to the code and check out index.css,
Nope.
min height is 100.
Yeah, that's what we had. That's what we
Yeah,
had.
so-
That's
Gotta be
fine.
It's gotta be the
We're
card.
just trying to
CSS,
expand it to like
or
the
not
width of
card,
the
counter.
window or the height of the window.
But that's the body, not that element. So counter card again. Let's just take a look at this again. Border radius, margin, padding, width, max width, border background color, box shadow. Counter. Go to counter now. I don't think we added any style.
Counter,
No, so that's
counter
fine.
wouldn't have touched it at
Yeah,
all.
no, that's it. Yeah, I just want to make sure there was no weird styling somehow hiding.
It
in
would
that.
have had to have been an app or border card,
Yeah, app.
but we didn't really do too much with height and app,
No.
and
I
mean,
that is perfectly fine.
It would
Just
have
for
to
the-
be.
Why is this boy so big?
I don't know.
Kidding. Do you have another browser?
Yeah, let me just try
Oh,
this, I
God.
guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
Local host enthusiasm.
all
It's
right,
fine.
all
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Something's got to do it for testing. Okay, so it is still doing it. So it is something wrong with the code, not the browser. Okay.
I feel like it's in the border card. If I had to guess,
You're not using
Yeah.
border card.
I think it's
Oh,
an
the
index.
counter card. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I did the same thing. I think it's an index.
we
Hold
just
on.
looked at index though, and it was and nothing was changed at all.
Back to index, Nathan.
Well, even then, even if it was an index, if you go back to the browser for a second, it would show up underneath the other elements. So what's bothering me
think
is when you
it's
click on that for a second, hold on, click on that for a second. If you see here inside of the element items, you can scroll down to see what else is affecting it. So you see here that we have text align center, keep scrolling. So let's go up a little more, go a little too far. Scroll up a little bit. We see here under body, min height is not highlighted, so it's not actually affecting it. It was not inherited. So let's see how it's dimmed out. So it is inherited, but it shouldn't be affecting it. We can double check by clicking the
Flex at
checkbox.
110%.
What is it?
Is flex at 110%?
Where do you see that?
Above what he has highlighted.
What?
It says div class display flex 110%.
Oh, I don't see that.
Like,
So it
further
above,
up.
so it up
Oh,
and up and
that's
like
no,
Flex.
that's what Flex One does. Flex One is a shorthand for Flex 110%. You all should have the same thing. Yeah, that's the shorthand. That's what Flex One does. The Flex command actually requires 3 elements, but we only put 1 in there because we don't care. The other 2, we want the other 2 to be defaulted. Yeah, his min height isn't affecting it. So back here on this page, go ahead.
I did the same thing as Nathan in the
Yeah.
index, and I got rid of min height, and then it fixed it.
Go ahead and try.
So I did
feel
the
like
same
have it
thing what
online.
he did on line 2,
You just
and
comment
I
it out.
noticed that it expanded that box.
It shouldn't have. Yes, I didn't expect it to. Oh, save it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it and save it. I don't think you saved it after you got rid of it. It was still at the red dot. It
Alright.
still had the dot.
Well,
I'm still curious
Wait,
why.
wait,
though.
wait, go back.
Just do that. Yeah, kill that. Kill that.
Oh wait, I think I
Save.
know what.
Hold on. One thing at a time. Refresh. Just to be sure, because that was the index CSS. No, see, I didn't think that would do it. All right.
Oh, never mind. What the fuck?
How come counter has a dot? Oh, wait, the
Doesn't.
components have dots
Index
too. right,
CSS
on
does.
the-
No, they
on the
don't.
right side.
No, they don't.
The folder has a dot for
Oh,
because
dots, yeah,
it's just
folders have a dot.
it's just folders.
Git. Yeah. Ah, Jesus. So you got class name app. Make sure all the brackets are right. Yep, bracket, good.
Is this
Display flex
something
one, center.
possibly fixed by just restarting it?
Maybe.
Try, but I don't think so.
Got min height here. And, oh, I guess.
Back to the browser again, Vinny?
Yeah.
All right, so I want to see here for a second. Hold on. Can you take out all the elements in there except the background color?
Yeah.
Interesting. And then display block, can you uncheck that? on the div down below, the second
Oh.
element in there, yeah. Oh, you can't get rid of that, okay, that's fine. Wait, on your div class app, I don't see the align items that we had. Not that that should make a difference, but I noticed there's something missing on app. Click on that. Shouldn't be causing the issue.
I mean, I have them both in there.
Yeah, let's see. That's weird. Can you go back to your code on app.js and see if that's there? Because that would tell me that's not updating then. Ah, why is that not there?
I is not capitalized.
Is the line
Line
items?
items.
Capitalized.
Yes.
Shouldn't be causing the problem. I would be surprised if it was,
It
but you know what?
might, but-
Screw it.
That
Oh
would-
my
The
god.
hell? Okay, let's re-enable all the stuff inside of div. So let's click on that other div quick
Yeah, you go back to the
and
div
re-enable all the
under it-
elements.
Under it.
Oh no, the
On-
re-enable
It's
the
the, it's
regular-
the lowermost one.
that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's re-enable all the elements. There you go. Put them all back in. We probably could just refresh the page actually, but it's fine.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh,
Hey, it
you
looks fine now. So now try
bastard.
clicking on it, by the way.
Look at
Now
that beautiful box.
I don't know why that did that, but hey, it works.
Apparently, if you don't have
Oh,
the align
letter.
items, it
I did before, but I'm wondering if like the misspelling caused an error though.
maybe.
So I almost want to have you just disable align items and see if it goes big again, but whatever, it works. It's CSS again. CSS is the goddamn blinders. It literally is.
By the way, I found that
One
that
native
CSS
comment
is
line.
awesome thing that you found in the mug. I found that on a hat, and honestly, I think
Yeah, I'm getting
I
that.
should get it.
Oh, that'd be great.
Did I bring that to the interview?
Anybody else?
Oh.
Probably.
But certainly
Uh,
going into the inspector on that page and then going to what we just did and changing those values and messing with those, you can see how the page is, and then you can incorporate those changes back into.
I was about to say that, yes. So what I'm
CSS.
gonna,
Should have something relatively what the page looked like.
Yeah. well, Andrew, let me make sure that people understand what you meant by that, because I think they weren't ready for that tip to realize we were giving them a tip. So a lot of times, like if you're trying to play with the CSS and you're not sure what to do, instead of editing the JavaScript file, saving and then going back to look, edit the fields there. And also you can add fields in that inspection window and see what it looks like. And when you finally get the end result you want, you can then take those fields and bring them over to your JavaScript after. So that is something that I've done before when I'm like, I'll start with the JS, but if I'm having trouble getting the view I want, I'll test out other CSS attributes until I get the view I want, and then I'll copy those into JS, into the JavaScript side. So 100%, that is a great way if you're to live play with the CSS to realize what you want, especially because sometimes it may not be the element you need to edit, the one you think that you need to edit, and so that may be the parent element or the child element that needs the changes. So being able to do that live in real time on the website can be really helpful for realizing what your CSS should be. But again, we're going to do more practice, going to see more CSS. I'm going to give you guys a collection of like some friendly items to use. But this is just, again, this is your intro to React. I've given you some of the, you already have enough to even start using React now. Use state, child components, on click. You already have a pretty decent number of things to already use as is. But then Monday, we're going to talk about the router. I'm going to do routes and URLs on how to navigate. And I'm going to introduce you to a bunch of the common components I give. And then we're also going to start, we're going to do a looping structure where we can generate multiple boxes every time we click a button. So we're going to bring a button in, and every time we click the button, it's going to add another component to a list. I'm going to see how that dynamically loads. And using that same concept, we're then going to pull from the news API a bunch of articles and display a bunch of article summaries in a box. So that same box we have, it's going to instead display the summary of the news article plus the image. So we're going to get to do that. And that's going to be our main goal for that. Whether or not we'll have the time to actually do anything with the developer side of things, it's going to be cutting it close. I think my goal is hopefully on Tuesday to try to do some of the authentication stuff. I'm hoping Monday we do looping and pulling from the news API. And then on Tuesday, I want to do authentication and pulling down all the developers after we log in. We probably won't have enough time to actually register or add an account in class. You guys can do that on your own, but I will be able to show you guys how to create the form to log in. And probably, actually, I will probably do the sign up. So you'll do username and password sign up. We'll be able to reuse that same form for login as well. So that's probably what Tuesday will be. And then we might do a couple more when we do get back in case we need it, in case you guys struggle with the front end on your projects. But Keep practicing this stuff, play with it. That's the biggest thing I can say about React is just fiddle. Go ahead. I'm not going
Nothing
yet.
has changed.
All right.